This podcast is not safe for work and will feature movie spoilers. It will feature scenes described of a graphic nature. It will contain language which most listeners may find offensive. Welcome to the podcast Under the Stairs. Hi everyone and welcome to the podcast Under the Stairs. I'm your host Duncan McLeish. Welcome to the show. We have not recorded an episode, like a fresh recording on this feed is about 3 months ago, I think was the last time I recorded anything. And truth be told, there's still to drop an episode. So that will have been out just before this one officially drops. But yeah, I took a bit of time off because I was like, you know what? I ain't feeling it. And if I ain't feeling it, you guys ain't feeling it. And if you guys ain't feeling it, then no one's feeling it. And I also thought to myself, there's a lot of turmoil going on in the world. Does the world need an episode of the podcast Under the Stairs? So I took some time off. And in that time that I took off, in the UK we had elections. In America they had elections. Apparently another war has broken out. And I thought, you know what? Let's bring it back. And if I'm going to bring it back, I'm going to put my best fucking foot forward. In the words of the man that is about to grace us with his voice, the way anyone would describe the podcast Under the Stairs is in this fashion.
These guys are just a pair of fannies. Do you know what I mean?
So ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, allow me to introduce my guest for this episode. He is a man, he is a myth, and if ever there was a legend, this guy fits the fucking bill. He is, of course, the Baz.
Hola, sexy bitches. The
Oh,
fannies are back together, my friend. The fannies are back together.
Back! Like, you are drinking the black right there as well.
I'm on the black.
Let's get into that, right? Before we even fucking started, I was like that, oh, you're in the Guinness tonight, and then you produced what I thought was from a distance. That glass looked like a wine glass, and then you were like, no, it's one of those gay ale glasses. Let's get into this. The words that came out your mouth was, I smashed every pint glass I had when I was on holiday. And I'm just wondering, one, how's that possible? And two, why did you pack your pint glasses on holiday? You're like, oh, they'll not have them where I'm going. I can't drink out of a can. That's what hobos do. So
ever since I came back, so I think the listeners will remember possibly, I went to Dublin for my 50th birthday with my wife, and ever since then, I've been heavy on the
good stuff.
Heavy on the old Guinness, and I'm really fussy about what I drink it out at, and I've got proper Guinness glasses and all this. And you can't really drink draft Guinness out. Well, you could if you were like in a field. Do you know what I mean? But you wouldn't do it by choice. So we're going on holiday.
You're at one of those hippie festivals like Glastonbury.
I like washing too much to go to the things. But I was away. So myself and my wife took the boys away down to Sunny Centre Parks down in Cumbria, and we were going with Shed Stew, who listeners to Jaws' Shite will be familiar with. So Shed Stew and his wife and his 2 kids were going, and we were sharing a big chalet thing and having a rare old time to ourselves. And Big Stew likes a Guinness as well. So I had taken down some Guinness and that, and I'd packed I had 2 pint glasses. I'd left one of my Guinness pint glasses in my sister-in-law's house weeks previously, which is still there. So I packed the only other 2 pint glasses I had.
Are you showing up at like people's houses for like a party and that with not only your carry-out but the glass you're going to drink in?
Yes. I've been doing that a lot. Don't
Like
even
one
care.
of those guys that goes to play pool at a pub and be like that. No, I'm not going to use one of those fucking pool. I'm going to use Betsy. Like
Yeah.
looking out with a bag.
And it's a snooker cue. It's not even a pool cue. It's a solid beach snooker cue that's all in one piece. Can't even unscrew it in half. Yeah. So
Were you
anyway,
going Greek while you were drinking though? Were you like finishing drinks and going, Opa! Smash!
no, it's not. It's nowhere near as cool as that, Duncan. Basically, we'd packed the car, and my glasses were the last thing I packed. And the kids have got these little snow boot Crocs, right? That are padded, and they use them instead of wellies because they're kind of warmer and they're just better than wellies, right? So thinking I was being clever, I put one glass in each Croc snowshoe. And I then got to the chalet. Now, Shed Stew's kids didn't know that they were sharing a chalet with us. It was a surprise, right? Our kids knew, but theirs didn't. And we got to Centre Parks like 15 minutes ahead of them. So we had to like unpack everything out of the chalet. I had to move the car. And then we all had to hide all the way in about 10 minutes, right? So pulls up outside the chalet, jumps out, opens the boot. And these two things just fell right out the boot, smashed. I could have gret, right?
Is it, what was the first day you were down there? Because I'm sure there was a day not that long ago that I was sitting in my office working and I heard in the distance, no!
Bastard!
Right from PCs, bastard! Yep.
So I hadn't even got in the house yet and I'd smashed them. Then I was in such a bad mood. I was stomping about, effing and blind and just throwing cases about. I'd also taken my salt and pepper shakers for my cooking. Dropped my pepper, fucked it, wrecked.
The fuck are you now? Well, we're going to Centre Park, so I better buy my salt and pepper shakers.
Well, you know what I'm like with my cooking? I'm very fussy.
I know
And
you are,
listen,
but fucking salt and pepper shakers.
I've done way worse than that. We went to that Kilconquer through in the East Nuka Fife one time, the big family thing, and I was cooking a big roast dinner. I took a knife roll with me, like my dad's knives, and a big canvas. So that thing that looks like something at a Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
That's Fife. That's not that far away. We're going to drive to Cumbria, which isn't close to where you live. And you know what? I'm going to pack salt and pepper shakers.
Yeah. Anyway, it was a good holiday, all that. I say. The worst bit was though when I opened the cupboards and there was like 12 pint glasses in the cupboards in the chalet.
Of course. Yeah. Because it's
Just
like when people go to Centre
mocking
Parks,
me.
the parents drink. I'm just going to say, not that and I'm going to stress this, I did not know this. You can you back me up here. I did not know any of this before we started recording, but weirdly I anticipate, because this is how long we've been recording together, I actually have a sounder for this. And you could describe Centre Parks as...
He basically tells them that this camp has a death curse.
Has a death curse, Matters. Has a fucking death curse. Has a death curse.
Pint glass.
What are you opening there?
I'm opening the whiskey. I've
You're
got a
opening
lovely
it right in the
bottle of
whiskey.
Eagle Rare.
I
10-year-old
love Eagle Rare.
Kentucky straight bourbon. And
Yeah,
it's just
like for those that don't listen to the drunken ramblings of Jaws' shite, I can understand why, because it's not a great podcast and it doesn't come out often. But Baz, it is terrible. But you've kind of switched your allegiance in the last year and a bit from the whiskey, which I'm on the night, to the bourbon, which I do love. I do love a really nice bourbon. But unlike you, I have not switched like I'm not wearing a Make America Great Again cap like you, Baz, with your fucking bourbon. I'm sticking.
Good job
pure
I'm on
Scottish.
camera here and folk can see I'm not wearing that. I can't even talk about that. Cannot even fucking talk
It's
about
fine.
it.
Listen.
If I
what
start
have
fighting
realised-
America tonight, we'll never get this thing finished.
What I've realised is in my it's weird. Like season 2 of True Detective bombed horribly, right? Like everyone hated it except me. I fucking loved it, right?
What was
But
season 2?
everyone
What
hated
one was
it.
that?
That's the one with Colin Farrell and Vince Vaughn.
Oh, I like that.
I loved it, right? I
Yeah,
think
I
it's
liked it.
just behind season 1, right? But everyone's like,
It's
it's
very
too dark.
noir kind of thing, wasn't it? Very kind of
100%
cinema
noir, which is
Aye.
which is why my nipples get tweaked while I'm watching it. But the viral campaign for that was all like, it was like still images and the phrase "We get the world we deserve," right? And I've realized specifically this year, more than any other year, we get the world we deserve. So as a result of that, I've changed tact. Like tonight, I'm not going to be as nice as I usually am about things. I'm going to be brutally fucking honest. We, on this episode, we should probably mention this, we're going to cover basically what we watched in October. I did my 31,
Yeah.
and
I
you
did my however many days.
and I'm interested to see how many days that was, because when we caught up, like a week and a half into October, you were like that. I've actually watched quite a few movies, and I was like, Jesus Christ, Bass has watched more than I have, which made me double my
you had a
efforts.
very slow start this year, did you not?
Terribly slow. Yeah, I've been doing a lot of traveling for work, and I had, for some reason, my wife is now planning holidays in October for us, which just fucks with my schedule. Honestly, it's like, how can I maximize the impact of making Duncan feel shitty during October, during the month he loves? Book a holiday. Although my holiday was great, but that's aside. So we are going to talk about that, and we're going to talk about stuff that we watched. I picked out some glorious highlights of October, but I'm going to be honest, as 31s go, this was the weakest 31 I've done, and I'm also going to say this, maybe the weakest year for horror that I can remember since this show started over a decade ago. I genuinely think this year sucks. And I keep seeing people talk about how great this year is, and I don't know what fucking world they're living in, but this year for horror sucks. Like, my top 20 at the end of this year, compared to any other year in the last 10 years that I've done this show, I don't think 3 of these movies would make a top 20. Like, compared to the years before. I'm just so... And it's not that I'm disconnected or disenfranchised with horror. I just don't think the quality is there. I think we're in a lull right now where there is a dividing line between what is good, what makes money, and what is just cynically shit. And that's where we are right now. And apparently the rest of the horror community aren't on board yet, but I'll tell you right now, you will be if things keep going the way they're going. I'm calling it at first. This year has been awful. So we'll get into that.
We've stopped going to the cinema as much. Like, I have noticed that our cinema going has plummeted this year.
Because there's nothing that great. There's one or two movies I've seen at the cinema in the last month and a bit where I've been like that. This was actually really good. I'd wish I had seen it with you and Dave, because it would have been... And we'll talk about it at the end. There's a movie that has come out since our 31, which I think is a viewing experience. Now that Dave's seen it and Dave loved it and I loved it, as a viewing experience of all three of us, I think we would have come out and been like, that was fucking awesome, and want to talk about it loads. But there hasn't been much at all, like in the way of anything. I think this year soured me right at the start when we went to see Night Swim. And I was just like, what are we fucking doing here? And I don't think the year has really picked up much since Night Swim. I think it's like all shades of Night Swim. So that's what we're going to do on this episode for you. I'm going to be honest, I think moving forward, I'm going to be less cheery. I'm struggling to put a positive spin on how great everything is, because let's be honest, it's okay. Like, horror could do better, and we as people could do better, but I'll tell you what, Duncan and Baz, fucking golden. Every time, man.
Always golden, big
effortless.
Man. Always
effortless.
golden. If you're listening, I do want you all to tune into the next episode of Jaws is Shite whenever we do it, because there we'll be discussing the religion that we're going to start. which is my new thing.
All
at the
I
moment.
all I know is we've started referring to Liam as the Jizz Pope.
Jizz Pope.
Yeah, Jizz Pope. And I feel like if that has piqued your interest as a casual listener listening to podcasts under the stairs, then like Baz said, check out the next episode of this Jaws of Shit.
Check it out.
Where I was going to say all is explained, but it's religion, which means a tiny nub will be explained, and the rest is behind a paywall, a very, very expensive paywall. We should just Scientology this shit. We should just make people pay for the next level all the way through it, if we can.
We're cooler than L. Ron Hubbard. Do you know what I mean?
We are. Well, I'll tell you right now, we're fitter than L. Ron Hubbard. I don't know if we're necessarily cooler. He had a boat. So, yes, that's what we're doing on this episode. I'll tell you what, there's nothing that makes me happier than having the opportunity to sit down and chat with Baz. It genuinely makes me happy. We've not done much of them, but I'm going to say less is more, maybe? I don't know. The people are going to... This episode will be the most... It'll be the most downloaded, most watched episode this year, because you haven't done much this year with me. So that genuinely means people will be like, oh, a break from that fucking miserable flopped here bitch. Let's go and check what Baz is saying. So, ladies and gentlemen, with that in mind, we're going to take a short break for you. When we return, we are basically recapping our 31 or however many movies I could watch in October. And we'll be giving you the good, the bad, the indifferent, and of course, as always, the absolutely fucking awful. Ladies and gentlemen, we will be right back right after this. And welcome back. Now, Baz, I want a count. I want a count right at the start here. However many days following. How did we do this year?
I only managed 12 this year.
That's not bad.
It was alright, considering I was away for a week in October. And I only managed to watch like one the whole time we were away, kind of thing. So yeah, I've had better years, I've had worse years, kind of thing. Do you know what I mean?
12 was not like, listen, there was a time where you were like that, I've done 3. I'd be like that, 3? You're like, yep. Fell asleep during most of them.
Oh, I mean, most of these were 2-3 day watches as well. Which, not going to lie. But that's okay, we grind it out, do you know what I mean?
Always,
that's what
always,
we're
man.
Working
right.
for.
Yeah. Right, so I think we'll go turn around and work through here. So what I want from you, and I'm going to link this up, when I do a positive review, you're going to do a negative review. When you do a negative review, I will do a positive review. So if you suffer through something you don't like, the next review will be spoken about positively. So do you want to kick us off? Do you want me to kick us off? What do you think?
I'll kick us off. I'm going to kick us off with the first one that I did, which was a bit of a random choice. So quite a lot of mine this year were on Shudder. I've not really dabbled much in Shudder, although interestingly I did notice that recently, whether it's just been for October, but their output in the UK Shudder was much higher than it has been in months. Because I think we bitched about that and previously, the terrible output of UK Shudder.
Yeah, especially in the UK. The UK's been pretty bad.
Oh yeah. Because I would see some of the listeners would sometimes post like what's coming out on the American one, and they're getting like 30 movies, and we would get,
and you're like that. Why do we have 3?
And I'm never going to watch this Dragula show, so stop putting new episodes of that on because I don't care.
Why won't you watch the Dragula show? Just out of curiosity.
I don't get the drag thing at all, and that's not in a derogatory way. See, you want to do your drag, knock yourself out. You want to go and see drag shows, go crazy. It just does nothing for me. So yeah, but putting fangs on it is not fucking dragging me in. You know what I mean? So the first movie I watched, I think, was on Shudder or possibly just Prime, but I'm pretty sure it was on Shudder. It was a New Zealand movie called The Devil's Rock.
Yeah, I've still to see this, so...
Yeah, so the premise, we're getting into spoilers. Premise is it's the night before D-Day, and two New Zealand commandos essentially land on one of the Channel Islands, which most folk should know were occupied. It was the only British soil that was occupied during the Second World War was the Channel Islands. These two commandos are sent to one of the smaller ones to take out a gun emplacement which is threatening or could be dangerous to the invasion fleet, which is kicking off at dawn the next day kind of thing. And they get to the place, things get a bit spooky. It's a good old Nazi occult movie. You know what the Baz is like for the Nazis and the occult.
I'm like you, like, see, if you give me Nazis and the occult, I'll be honest, I'm in. Like, the movie can be like low rent trash as well, but I'm just like, you're scratching an itch here. So
I think I think a lot of it could be traced back to Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah,
100%. Do you know what I mean? This actually was not a terrible movie. This was all right. It's pretty short, relatively speaking. The acting's not terrible in it. There's some pretty decent practical effects. There is some pretty shoddy CGI at points, but they don't rely on that for the whole thing. So you can kind of skate by that. It's nothing that you've not seen before. There's nothing groundbreaking in it. But it was alright. It was a fun kind of watch, and to be honest, especially when it comes to the however many days of Halloween, and I'm going to talk about this once we're finished however many days of Halloween. I'm going to talk about a TV show that I've just watched. Sometimes I just want to sit and enjoy something. Do you know what I mean? Like you can with, like stick Step Brothers on or something like that. You just want to sit and just have a good fucking time, right? And I like to do that with horror as well. So this was quite a good one. I like the war. I like all that. I like war movies, like that whole thing. I thought it was quite interesting about the Channel Islands. Thought that was quite a good wee kind of premise to base it on. But so yeah, definitely worth checking out. Not the worst film I've ever watched by far. So had you heard of this one? Were you aware of it?
Yeah. So it was on, actually. It's still on my list of movies to watch before the end of the year because it got a bit of traction when it came out. It just never made my 31 at all. And to be honest, and I'm going to put this out here, I have now cancelled my Shudder subscription.
Have you?
Yeah, I cancelled it.
Big swinging boss on you, sir.
Back in June, I gave them about a year to thrill me, as the great Tom Atkins would say, and they hadn't done it. I kept looking at less and less coming out in the UK, and interestingly enough, a lot of stuff has come out since. There's a couple of movies I'm going to talk about that are available on Shudder that I acquired elsewhere. Not proud of it, but I don't care. So I'm going to say that felt like a positive review, so I should follow up with something.
It's relatively positive. I'm not raving about that film by any means, but yeah, go and watch it. It's worth a watch.
Cool, right. Well, let me tell you of a movie that I think is not worth your time. It's not terribly shot. It's not terribly acted, but it is derivative. It is a remake. The script is shit, and we have 2 movies still to come out in this reimagining, quote unquote, of The Strangers. The Strangers is a movie that I don't really like. I love the second one. The second one is a movie that is over the top. It's like a camp slasher movie. It's ridiculous, right? But the premise is so ridiculous, it's enjoyable. That original Strangers movie, and I know there's a lot of listeners right now, a lot of Americans, who are like, that's my fucking shit. For context, The Strangers came out about 3/4 of a year after Inside. And Inside is a home invasion movie that after you watch it, like nothing is going to give you the same like level of just this is fucking terrifying. And I remember watching Strangers being like,
I rewatched Inside about 6 months ago.
It's
I
terrifying.
watched that movie in the first year of Baz V Horror. If you remember, it was when we did the French Extremity stuff. I watched that movie, fucked me up, but I really enjoyed it. Had never gone back to it, and on a whim one night I stuck it on, and it still punched me in the tits.
It's a movie. Like every time, like I've seen Inside like 6 times, and every time at the end I'm just like that. Oh fuck! Like it just makes you terrified of people.
Yeah.
Right. The Strangers doesn't make me terrified of people, right? It just makes me terrified of the fact that that movie. I've told you before, the reason I dislike it is there's just a lot of shots of like someone doing something, and like one of the masked people in the background walking at the frame, and then walking out, and I'm like, the person in the shot doesn't know you're there. So that's deliberately for the audience, which literally takes me out of it because it makes me think your movie's a movie. It just annoys me.
Yeah.
The Strangers Chapter 1. This is Rennie Harlin. Rennie Harlin has been on the go for many years, has made a lot of bad movies.
He did Cliffhanger.
He did
right?
Cliffhanger, which is a
Stallone?
fucking great movie. He also did Deep Blue
loved
Sea, which is a passable movie, right? He also did one of The Exorcist, like either the Dominion or the Beginning. I can't remember which one it was. Both those movies are fucking shit. Rennie Harlin can be described as a bit of a hack, right? He, for some reason, this is about a year and a bit ago, it was announced off the back of the finale of the Halloween trilogy that came out. Rennie Harlin is going to do The Strangers, and then like within a week it was like Rennie Harlin is doing The Strangers but as a trilogy, and I was like, oh, why are we doing this? And it was like that, yeah, he's doing a trilogy, but they will all be released because they've all been filmed back to back. They'll all be released pretty quick, and the first one will be like a reimagining of the first movie. So it's essentially a remake. So I went into this going, they've remade a movie that I'm just fine with, and I wonder how that's going to be. And I like this one less than the original, which I think is passable. Like, somehow they have made the characters dumber, and I don't know how you do. Like, the characters in the first movie are dumb. The characters in Chapter 1 are really fucking dumb, and they make decisions which almost make me think. Well, they make decisions that almost make me think that that country might elect Donald Trump again. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, who would ever do? Like, it is such a dumbly written movie, and I suffered. I stress this. I suffered through this movie, knowing that I know what happens at the end, and they changed the ending, right? So the Liv Tyler character, who is played by the little redhead chick from Riverdale, the TV show, if you've ever watched it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, she's the main girl in this. Very pretty, a great actress. She survives it. She doesn't die at the end. She survives it. Okay. And she wakes up in the hospital, and I'm like, oh, that's a strange choice here. And she's lying in bed, and then we get the vision of one of the killers. I'm assuming it's a dream sequence at the side of the bed, and it was like that. To be continued, and I audibly said, "Fuck off! Get the fuck!"
Yes.
If you're doing a trilogy, like, do what the second movie. Like, just give me a different story. Let's not make this she continued. She isn't Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yeah.
This isn't the movie for that. That's not what they're there for. Why did you, like, it was because you were home. Like, all this shit. It was just.
So, interestingly, you mentioned Halloween there, right? The
yes.
The recent Halloween trilogy.
Evil Dies Tonight, Baz. Yes, I did.
Apparently, it didn't, though. Is this just a reaction to that? Is this a, like, let's make a
this is like
horror movie trilogy. But
it's like, let's remake a movie, but let's make a trilogy out of it. It's the same way, although this is a classic example of things backfiring horribly. It's the same way that Blumhouse were like, let's do The Exorcist, but make it a trilogy, and that first movie fucking bombed. And then the director left, and now Mike Flanagan's going to try and save it. I love Mike Flanagan. Mike Flanagan should not be making an Exorcist movie. Like, that's a bad choice. That's just, it's not his wheelhouse, and like, we are like that. Like, they spent so much money to get the rights to The Exorcist. Rennie Harlan and the studio behind The Strangers probably didn't spend a lot of money to get this, but the Brian Bertino movie, which is the original Strangers movie, which I think, like I said before, is fine, is infinitely better than this one. It did really well. Strangers Chapter 1 did money. There is a second one coming out soon. The third, I think, second and third parts are being released both next year, so the trilogy will be over by the end of next year. I just don't. It reeks of someone watching The Strangers, right, and getting to the end of it and being like that. Like, yeah, this movie's just about like these killers that just terrorize these people, and that's all they took away from it. So that's the movie it is, and it's just dumb. Like, all the Brian Bertino's a really, 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 really good director, and The Strangers just is not a movie that I like from him, but he's done plenty of movies since that I really like, and this just feels like someone like distilling it down to the base level and making the dumbest version of this movie. And maybe parts 2 and 3 will have more personality and character because they don't exist within a remaking of the original. Maybe we'll get something out of it. But it's just, at the end of this movie, I got to the end of it where it said to be continued. The first thing that sprung to mind is, does it need to? Like, that's how cynical I felt about it. I just felt like I don't need to watch another 2 of these movies that'll just do the same thing again. So yeah, that is my bad. I gave it a 2.5 out of 5. I stand by that 2.5 out of 5. I didn't fully fucking hate it. I just, like, Strangers to me gets a 3. This one is a 0.5 lower. They're not movies I would recommend anyone watch because there's better movies out there.
I think with The Strangers, the kind of concept of it, not necessarily just the first film, but the kind of concept of it, it was one of those things. It was a cool visual. That trailer. You know, I still go back to the original trailer, the first movie, where she's like, "Why are you doing this to us?" And she was like, "That because you were home." Is just one of the great lines in horror history where you're like that. All right, it's not targeted. It's not anything. It's just because they answered the door. That's why they're fucked. And that's something that inherently to me is just quite scary. But the movie doesn't live up to that. You know what I mean? It doesn't live up to that idea at all. I just think there's quite a lot of these films coming out just now, and the obvious one to me is Terrifier.
We're getting to it. It's on the list.
You know,
it's on the list.
I actually saw there was a wee kid cutting about when I was out at Halloween with my kids dressed to say,
"Is Art the Clown?"
Holy fucking!
There's so much Art the Clown this year. It's unbelievable.
Judging by his height, I would have said he was maybe about 12 or something. He was coming down with his wee pal, and me and Shed Stu were just kind of walking up. The wives had taken the kids onto some doors. Me and Shed Stu were just sauntering up, and I went like that to the wee guy at a point. We're like, "Art the Clown!" And he just pulled out one of those honking horn things. Went, "Honk!"
As I mean, like big sexy Dave that we go to the cinema with was like, that Terrifier 3's coming out in the cinema. I've never watched any of them. Do you want to go and see the third part? And I'm like, that I will not give them my money. I'm not doing now, right?
I've never seen the second one, so I bought the first one. I just bought it on DVD. I just wanted to see it, to see what everything people were talking about, and I thought the visual of Art the Clown was great. And then I've watched that. Is it All Hallows Eve that it was?
Which is the short
movie that it was in.
Yeah.
Aye. So I've seen that. I didn't watch the second one because I think all you and everybody else I spoke to were like, "Oh my god, it's so long."
2.5 hours.
Aye.
It's 2.5 hours
I
long.
struggled to get through the first one.
Yeah.
So, and therefore I'm not going to bother Mars with the third one.
Well, I'd like
But
Dave
actually,
wanted to go and see it.
Sorry. Right,
I was
on
going to
you
say
go.
Dave wanted to go and see it, and I was like that. I don't want to go and see it at the cinema. And then I was chatting to him recently, and he checked it because the first movie and the second movie are both on Prime. So he watched the first movie, and he like in the music review podcast, the Metal Epidemic that we do, before one of the recordings, I was like, "What have you been watching?" And we were talking, and he was asking me, and I was like, "Oh, watch that Terrifier 3." And he was like, "Oh, I watched Terrifier," and I was like, "That." All right, so are you planning to go through them all? And he was like, "That one of the worst movies I've ever seen." I was like, "So you're going to watch the second one?" He was like, "Nope." I was like, "You're going to go to the cinema to see the third one?" He was like, "Nope." Like, and I was like, "Cool." Although I will say this, and we'll get to it when I get to the third movie. The third movie is the best of the three. So,
Oh, that's interesting. Well,
but
that all shoehorns
I'm going to
me.
caveat it when we get to it. So, like, what are you going to say?
This segues me quite nicely into another one of the films that I watched, which actually reminded me of it a little bit. A film called Candy Corn. Have you watched that?
I have no knowledge of this movie.
Never heard of Candy Corn?
No.
I think it's on Prime or Shudder. One of the two. I get my Shudder through my Prime subscription nowadays. Yep. So it's on one of the two of them. I had seen it before and kind of meant to watch it, and then I think it went off, and I think they brought it back on for Halloween because the visual, you know, like the little still is very pumpkin-centric kind of thing, so they've obviously popped it on for Halloween. It wasn't what I was expecting when I put it on, because when I put it on, it has that real lo-fi vibe that Terrifier has. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like Terrifier meets Michael Myers, or maybe Friday the 13th or something like that, you know. I started watching it, and the whole lo-fi thing, I'm like, oh my god, this looks like fucking Terrifier, and the acting's fucking tragic and all that. But the more I watched it, I did get this weird... It was like a nostalgia for something that I had never experienced. And I just thought, you know, I could see somebody in the 80s sitting watching this, like with their pals on Halloween night, do you know what I mean, with buckets of popcorn and all that. And it kind of I gradually kind of grew into it. Candy Corn's not a good film, right? It's not. But there was something oddly comforting about it that Terrifier just doesn't have for me. Do you know what I mean? I will never watch Candy Corn again. Don't get me wrong. But it just... It's hard to... That's the best way I can describe it. It felt like a horror film I would have watched when I was young if I had watched horror films. Do you know what I mean? And I've spoke to you before, like, when I was young, and my friends that had VHS recorders and that at home were all watching a lot of these kind of early 80s slasher movies. Oh,
100%, yeah. And
they must have watched 100 films like this. I'm not sure the age of Candy Corn. I'd imagine it's 20 teens, maybe 2020 or something like that. But yeah, so that was Candy Corn. The whole premise is it's a wee local kind of simpleton, for want of a better term.
It's 5 years old, so it's 2019.
5 years old. Right, there we go. So he gets brought back to life by a circus freak troupe. And he just kills some cunts, basically. It's alright. And he's got a wee bucket, and in the bucket is candy corn, that American sweet, which is the worst sweet in the world.
I've never had it, but apparently it's horrible.
Shite. It just tastes like sugar. There's no flavour to it. It's just sweet. It's just the taste of sweet. It's fucking awful. Again, it was my pal Mark, his mum, like because his dad was US Navy, they had access to what was called the commissary in Dunoon, which was this American kind of shopping centre that we couldn't get into. So they had, even though they lived in Dunoon, they had all the American food and all that kind of stuff. And there was always a bowl of candy corn lying out in their house at all times. and I would inevitably eat about 40 of them, and I didn't like the first one, but I would eat another fucking 39. I don't know why. The weirdest stuff. But aye, it's shite. And they made a film about it now.
Well, that sounds like a kind of moderately negative review from you. So let me come in with something that I loved, which you've actually seen that I wasn't there for. This was one of the secret screenings that I missed out with you and
yes.
Dave. So the movie's Cuckoo.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You were there for that? Yep. So Cuckoo is directed by the same guy who did the German avant-garde kind of almost single location horror movie Luz, which I fucking loved, right? And then disappeared, and I was like, that maybe he's a one and done, but no, actually turns out he got a bit of money and actually an English cast and German cast, and went away and made this movie Cuckoo. It's been getting a bit of traction this year for being like, people have went to see the weirdest movie this year that features Dan Stevens. And I'm like, is it weird though, or is it just weird to like average people? And to me, it's kind of like normal. We'll find out. I thought Cuckoo was fucking great, right? Like, this is a Duncan movie, right? Because like right from the start, I'm instantly like, all right, this is here's where the world exists. Here's where the story exists, which is just off. It's just off center. It's just like something that just a little bit strange. I thought the performances were brilliant. I genuinely loved. Luz had this weird kind of retro style cinematography, which wasn't like, let's put grainy effects and make it all VHS like, but it just felt older. I think there was a bit of that existed with the time period it was shot in it's supposed to be shot in the 80s in Germany, so it had that kind of like VHS German feel about it. Cuckoo has a bit of that as well, maybe not to the same extent, but as a colour palette, which kind of makes me think, alright, this isn't modern, crisp and fresh and digital. I love the concept, and I'm not give away the reveal in this one. Yeah, but I thought it was actually really fucking smart, because what it did was it made me guess a couple of times through, and when it landed, I was like, it's so weird, but at the same time weirdly tangible, that I kind of just went with it. And
I know exactly what you mean. I felt that the kind of revealed premise, if you like, and we won't spoil it for anybody, but I could understand why somebody would like it, and I couldn't. I thought you would like the film, but I wasn't sure how you were going to react to that bit. And I think that's only because I don't know how anybody would react to that bit, because you could either think, oh yeah, or you could go, like, that's just ridiculous.
It's a total fork in the road moment.
Yeah.
It's either I'm going to go with this movie, or I didn't sign up for this. You know what I mean? It's one of those like definitive forks in the road. And I totally went with it, because like at that point, after everything that had happened, I was so curious to see where we were going to end up. And it worked for me. Like by the end of the movie, I just kind of felt satisfied. And I'm going to stress this again. I mentioned it in the upfront. This year has not been great for horror. And I'm begging for anything that just connects with me at the moment, and Cuckoo connect with me, because it just didn't feel like a lot of the stuff that I'd seen this year that just made me feel like we're running out of ideas here. We're treading water. And Cuckoo felt like, oh no, we actually have something to grab onto. We're gonna be fine. I liked it. I thought the performances were great. I loved it. It was my level of quirky crazy that I could get behind. I wish I'd seen it with you guys now, because I kind of finished it. It was the first movie that I watched as part of my 31, and so I was like that we are on to a fucking great start right now, because everything I've watched in the like 2-3 months before has disappointed me so much, and this excites me. So yeah, one of the highlights for me of my 31 was Cuckoo. So what else did you like from this 12-year? Give me one that you liked.
Just to mention the Cuckoo, so as you say, I've seen it, so I didn't watch it as
You
part
had
of my
seen it.
however
You went
many
to see it
days.
with Big
I
Sexy
saw it at the
Dave.
cinema, yeah. And I would agree just with everything that you said. There was some amazing visuals, and I don't mean necessarily effects. There's a scene relatively early in this with the girl on the bike.
Mm-hmm.
You know the bit I'm talking about?
Oh, yes.
And that, I think that was the first proper scare I've had since Barbarian last year. And it doesn't happen to me a lot anymore. Like, I mean, I'll get maybe a bit scared by a film in general, but an actual scare, like fright, and not a stupid jump scare. Do you know what I mean? Although it was a bit jumpy. But yeah, and there was a few bits like that in it. I thought the soundscape in it was amazing. And yeah, there was a quirky weirdness even about the characters and the setting, you know, and all that. Yeah, I really like Cuckoo as well. I thought that was a great one. Film.
Give me one that you liked.
Here's one that I really enjoyed, which was a total random. I think I've mentioned it before. My TV, my Skybox records all the late night kind of horror-y type films off of Channel 4 because I'd recorded something about 2 years ago. So I just store them all up and then randomly I'll kind of watch one. A lot of them I've obviously seen, but this one, I don't even know why I picked it. I can't really remember the thinking behind it, but it's a film called Spontaneous.
I think I've seen Spontaneous.
So it's basically about a high school class and they start exploding.
Yes, I've seen that. Fucking hell.
So it weirdly reminded me the kind of vibe to it because there's a young kind of couple in it kind of get together and their relationship's just kind of starting off, but they're in this class, and so obviously their relationship starts in this weird world that they're kind of forced to live in where their friends are literally randomly blowing up. It reminded me a little bit of Nick and Nora's Infinite Playlist, which was a film I pure loved with Michael Cera and Kat Dennings.
It's 100% that indie vibe. It's an indie horror movie with that kind of indie, proper like indie comedy, indie drama sort of vibe.
Yeah. I'm not saying I connected with the characters because they're all teenagers, right? But I found them believable. As you say, it had that kind of quirky indie humour to it that was really good. And I mean, I laughed at more of the exploding people than I got a fright at them. Do you know what? Because they were able to utilise that sudden just burst of gore in oddly comedic ways, and I just thought that was brilliant. And I loved the way they finished it. It just boom. There's no explanation here. We're going to finish this film now. Do you know what I mean? And I really, really enjoyed it. It was one of the few I think that I managed to do in one watch. A film's really got to kind of engross me to keep me awake these days. So I'm so fucking old. But Spontaneous was one, and that was a real treat. I had a great time watching that film, I've got to say.
So that is directed, interestingly enough, by Brian Duffield, and he did a movie that came out last year on Disney Plus, right, or Hulu, but Disney Plus, called No One Will Save You, which is one of my favourite films last year. I don't
think I've seen that one.
You will love it. It's like a kind of sci-fi alien invasion movie, but it is done almost, it's like 95% of it is done with the characters being mute, like no dialogue. Right. Because the alien is kind of almost like A Quiet Place, in that the characters can't say anything for fear of being caught. It is fucking great. A lot of people didn't like it because of the ending. I disagree with that. I think the ending kind of fits with the quirk of the movie, but oh yeah, it's a really, really, really good movie. Spontaneous is his debut. No One Will Save You was the follow-up, which came 3-4 years after. So it's worth checking it. So if you have Disney Plus, No One Will Save You is on there. Go and check it out. It's a brisk hour and a half. It is a brilliant horror movie, like a proper sci-fi alien horror movie. It's really well done. Has a couple of jump scares, but has like a quirk about it that is brilliant. You will love it. So great director.
I'm gonna check that
great
out.
And Spontaneous I thought was brilliant as well. Like I remember watching it and just feeling good about people exploding, which you're probably, I don't know if that's the intention, but I kind of felt that way. So I'm glad that you did as well, man. That's kind of great.
Yeah, I really like that.
About in a wee while.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Does that mean I have to talk about something bad?
You've got to give us a rant now.
I've got a few here. So I did a remake. I have a few remakes on here that I want to rant about, but can I think of what? Let's go with a sequel, right? So, a couple of years ago, everyone and their auntie and their uncle were fucking spaffing themselves all over this Spanish horror movie called The Platform, which at the time I thought was fine. And it was, oh no, it's it's got social commentary about, the class-based system. And I was like, it does, but it's so on the nose that I want to punch myself in the nose. And to me, it was a one and done. We got to the end of it, and I was like, it's okay. It's okay. The definition of a 3-star movie. It's fine, right? Netflix, right at the start of October, was like that. The Platform 2. I was like, well, I remember how The Platform finished. So...
It's another platform.
You know what I mean? I was kind of like that. The Platform finished in a way where there's kind of like an ending, which kind of negates the need for a Platform 2. So is this a prequel? They don't bother to tell you. Is it a sequel? They don't bother to tell you. Is it basically the same movie as the movie you watched before, but longer? Yes, it is.
We're not going to say it is, but it is.
Oh, dude, this is like 2 hours long, and the sinking realization about 20 minutes in this movie that I had nothing more to give than the previous movie had, totally sunk in, and I was like, I'm gonna have to fucking power crawl here to the end of this movie. It doesn't give you anything that the previous movie didn't give you. And when it tries to be edgier, quote unquote, it doesn't really know what it's trying to say. And as a result, it's variations on a theme. And that theme didn't really interest me all that much the first time around. And didn't really interest me all that much the second time around. So this is a longer, more boring effort than the first movie. I would say skip it. Even if you were like blasé on the previous one, skip this one because more time needs to be invested to get through this one. I don't know what they were thinking, but I genuinely, because the original Platform movie ended up on Netflix, that I think it was quite a popular movie that I think they just were like, just do another one, and they literally just did another one, as opposed to, we have this money, we could expand on things, make things deeper or whatever. They just basically made another version of the same movie and just called it Part 2. So yeah, I thought it was pretty fucking bad, if I'm honest. So yeah, skip the Platform 2.
I have very limited knowledge of the first one. We did a commentary on it, obviously.
Yeah, I remember talking about it.
And from what I remember, I think we had some technical issues at the start of the recording. And by the time we get into it, I was fucking wrecked. And I can remember I remember the very basic premise. And beyond that, nothing. And I remember hating it. just because it had taken so long and I was drunk and surly and annoyed at the world. So yeah, I'm not watching that then. Let's talk about another film about things that go up and down though. Let's talk.
The unplanned segues here are fucking amazing right now, Baz.
Let's talk about the elevator game.
I've not watched this. No.
It's
you can't pay me money to watch a horror movie called anything involving the elevator. I remember watching did you ever see Devil?
Yeah.
I went to the cinema to see Devil, and I had one of those Shyamalan-esque sort of fucking who is the evil presence in the elevator? Like, go to the cinema to find out. And I remember going to the cinema to find out, and I sat down, spoiler alert for the people in here, and I sat down and I was like, who's the least likely person to be possessed by a devil? That little old woman over there. And then I sat through an hour and 40 minutes waiting for the movie to go, it's the old woman! And I was like, I fucking called it an hour and 40 minutes ago. What are we doing here? Oh, wait, give me the skimmy right now. What is the deal with the elevator game, Baz? Is it a game?
So it is. It's based right. So it's on Shudder over here anyway for anybody that is interested in watching it. It's a film about podcasters because that's what every fucking thing's about.
Wait 1 second, Baz. Before you say anything else, wait.
These guys are just a pair of fannies. Do you know what I mean?
Thank you. Podcasters.
Back when I was funny and good at this.
Your voice is like about 2 decibels higher than cheerier. Like life has beaten you down. Life and kids have beaten you. I'm going to put this in here because I can't think of a occasion where we're going to be able to use the sounder, but.
And he snaps one of the zombies' necks. And I was a bit like, oh, hold on, son, you're no fucking Steven Seagal.
I don't know what that was
about. Shrek 2 when the special forces agents come in and like one of them's like a zombie comes out, he's like, fucking.
Yeah.
He's no Steven Seagal, he's a rescue agent. But anyway, you sat and watched the elevator game, you got yourself comfy, you were like, this is how I'm going to spend my 31 of October.
Yeah. So it's about a podcast show that they basically do, like the... I'm trying to think the term they use for it. So something like Candyman, this idea of saying Candyman into the mirror 5
like
times
an urban
or whatever
legend.
It is that you need to do. Yeah, the urban legend type of... So this podcast... They troll the internet to find these types of things and then they go and do them. And this one in the elevator, they found this one about an elevator, and you put a kind of not random, a set series of floors in. Like, so you go in on the ground floor and then you have to go to like the 5th and then back down to 2 and then away up to 10 and then back to 5 again. And then the last one, you close your eyes and then the doors open and you have to keep your eyes closed until the elevator doors shut again. So you can't see what's there. Now, I will say, I thought that's actually quite good because I wouldn't be able to do that. I would just absolutely shit myself and have to open my eyes. Do you know what I mean? Right, so that's it. But don't make a film about that. Do you know what I mean? Make a 5-minute short on YouTube about that. Don't make an 1.5 hour long film about it.
It's an 1.5 hours?
Yeah, well, it's 80 minutes anyway.
No.
It's compact in film terms. It is not compact for a film about the elevator game. Do you know what I mean? And it's one of those things that did make me think, wonder, was this originally pitched as a short or something like that? Do you know
Possibly,
what I mean?
Yeah.
And just, so I like that one bit. See, when I realise, you've got to keep your eyes shut or this presence will enter the lift kind of thing, you know. That's quite good. I can see how that would be, you know, the type of thing you could get teenagers to try and do. Do you know what I mean? Beyond that, the characters all loathsome. There's a guy, the token kind of good guy. He's along because it got his sister died doing it, and he's trying to save her. Because I think the idea is you end up in some other fucking dimension or something like that. I don't know. Fuck it. Don't
The
watch
elevator dimension.
Yeah. So again, it's just another classic example. They've taken a little good nugget of an idea and just bent it over and bum raped it till it died, and then made you watch. No, it didn't make you watch, I suppose. Do you know what I mean? Once you're invested.
I do like being forced to watch a good bum raping.
So that was the elevator game. Don't watch that.
Right, that's your negative. I'm trying to remember. Should I do a negative now or a positive?
Oh, I'm lost, man. Just you do a positive one now, then.
Right, let's do so. Yeah, I did the platform 2, which I didn't like. Let's do something that I did like. I'm going back to Netflix, so I just shit all over Netflix. Let me praise Netflix with a movie called It's What's Inside.
I've seen this because I think I saw you watching it, and then I noticed it was on Netflix. I've not watched it though.
I love this. So this is a kind of... This is like the very definition of a fucking Gen Z horror movie, but a Gen Z horror movie that I can kind of get behind. So the premise is there's a group of friends who are kind of remember Bodies. Which we really liked, right? And the internet hated the ending, but we liked the ending. It's kind of bodies without the budget and with a smaller kind of idea, but a bigger scope. So these friends all kind of coalesce at this guy's fucking mansion house that his family's left him. And they're doing this on the day before his wedding. And this is a kind of like something like a pledge they made in college where like when you get married we'll all show up and have a party together. And they've all went their own ways and done their own different things. And they're all kind of a little bit estranged. But one of them is specifically estranged because something happened whenever they were in college that made him get expelled and all the rest. But he was the guy that did the party games, right? So the idea is he arrives and they're all there. And he has developed a new game. He now works in some Silicon Valley tech company. And the new game allows you to trade your mind into one of your friend's bodies. So it's like body switching. Right? So it's like fucking Freaky Friday, but as a game, right? But like the game is gonna be that they'll be able to switch bodies, but they have to guess who's in each other's bodies, and that's how it sets out. But all these people are like inherently toxic, kind of hate each other, and they're all up their own arse. And there's something else happening in the background, and then shit goes south. It is fun, it is quick, it is well shot, and I got behind it more than I thought I would. And by the end of the movie, I was 100% in. I think it is like brilliant. I think it's one of these great examples of a kind of as almost as the opposite of what you said. It is instead of being like a small concept idea that was given too much time, and as a result kind of fucking falls over. It's What's Inside is a small concept idea that's been expanded out to exactly the right amount of time. It's like an hour and 20 minutes. And it's perfectly paced, perfectly acted, a ton of fun, and just full of people that you don't fucking like. Very much like Bodies. We got through that movie just not liking anyone, and that's kind of what made it fun. When people were dying, you were like,
I remember that.
Good, that's what needs to happen. And when the ending arrived and you were like, that's so fucking ridiculous, but I don't care. the same as could be said about this one. Netflix scooped it up for, I don't think, a lot of money. And it's done really, really, really well on there. So I'm kind of hoping that the director himself gets a chance to go further with it. But it's a more indie version, but a smart movie at the same time. Infinitely enjoyable. So I had a ball with this movie. I know a lot of people have had a ball with this movie. It will probably make my top 20, but like I said in the intro, in any other year, this would struggle to make the top 50. But will probably make my top 20 this year. A ton of fun. It's What's Inside. It's on Netflix. Go and check it out. Baz, give us something that you liked. Do you have any more that you liked from your 12?
There's not a whole lot that I pure loved. But here's another one that actually is another Netflix one that wasn't bad. And the reason I ended up watching this, I didn't know anything about it. But when we were down at Centre Parks, Shed, Stu and I had gone out to watch the football this night. Comes back, and our wives were sitting watching this movie, and I sat down and looked at it for about 30 seconds, and I was like that. Is this with Rodney Alcala? And it's the film's...
Oh, wow, right, so I've seen this movie. Yeah.
So,
Women of the Hour.
Yeah. So they were like that, he's Rodney Alcala. I was like, dating game killer, because the bit that was on, or one of the scenes... It kind of jumps about in time, the movie. It's kind of rather awkwardly done. I wasn't a particular fan of that kind of trope that they'd used. But regardless, it was one of the dating game scenes that was on it. So they had lost all kind of interest because they were just fucking chatting. So I purposefully turned it off because I thought, well, I'd rather go and watch that and watch the whole movie, you know. So when we got home, I watched it myself. I quite enjoyed this film, but
it's pretty good, and I think that your butt there is going to be the same butt that I have, because like yourself, I've done the last podcast and the left episode in this one, so I know a lot about this killer.
Because quite recently they did the Rodney Alcala series that they did.
In the last year, that's right.
So it's all pretty fresh in my head, and I'm watching the movie and like, I don't fucking have him. And the one thing that stuck in my mind was everybody that met Rodney Alcala just didn't like the guy. You know, he's just a creepy, weird kind of guy. The guy playing him does not come across like that in this movie at all. He's quite charming and debonair at points. But what was interesting was the ending, because I couldn't remember that being the ending, and I went away and I looked it up and I was like, oh my god, that is what happened. You know, or a dramatised version of it kind of thing. Don't kind of want to say too much if somebody isn't familiar with the story or just wants to go and see the film. I thought Anna Kendrick was really good in it.
She directed it. This is her directorial debut, by the way. So.
So she was pretty good in it, and she like I said, the way it jumped about, I found it a little confusing.
It's
from you're kind of trying to timeline it in your head. I'm going, is this the first person he's killed? Or is,
this is the problem with the movie. So, like, the Anna Kendrick plays the character who escapes the dating game killer, but actually, when you take that out. And and Rodney Alcala's storyline, he's called a dating game killer. Yes, he had like all the fucking bad shit happened before he was on the dating game, and some stuff happened after. That small pocket really is. He was on a TV show. There was the woman contestant. After meeting him, was like that. I don't want to go on a date with him.
Yeah,
and it never went further. So I am not sure that the let's go to a bar, all that stuff actually fucking physically happened.
No, I don't think it did.
I
think the girl basically spoke to him briefly backstage after it's like that.
And was like, that's my interpretation. So if you take that out the story, right, what do you actually have in the story? You have all the kind of flashback sequences and all the rest of which they briefly touch on, And that's the problem. That's where the movie kind of falls over for me, is that it takes a lot of artistic license to center on essentially the bit that makes, from a kind of pop culture point of view, that serial killer interesting. But actually all the stuff that is more interesting from a psychological point of view, or for a true crime point of view, is all the other stuff which is jumbled up and not great in the movie. Even like the way he's arrested at the end of the movie is actually not how he was arrested. You know, she did call the police, but he left. He was actually caught at his mother's house. So even then, it's just like I'm torn, because like you, I had fun watching it, and like you, I was a pain in the dick with my wife sitting there going like that. Well, that never happened. like that. There was no one person in the audience during the film in the dating game. It was like, you murdered my friend. That never happened. But as a movie, like, if I imagine I knew nothing about Rodney Alcala, as a movie, it was actually all right. Like, it was well pieced together. And like you said, like, I mean, I think she's great as an actress anyway. I think her comedic time's really good. I thought she was brilliant in that. I love the bit where, even though they changed the questions that were asked, she went fully in. He's like that, just smile and just ask the questions, and she switches up and she picks on contestant number 1 and fucking destroys him. Like, literally just Bane backbreakers him. And it was getting more awkward, and I was like, oh, fuck. And I was like, why would you go on this show if you can't speak? I love that aspect.
What kept going through my head at that point as well was, though, I believe you can see footage of the actual episode on YouTube.
You can. I know the questions. I have seen. I went and checked out. It's not what she asks. She did not fucking do that. It's not how
he answers things either.
No.
You know what I mean? So, and that, the dork in me, the true crime kind of nerd in me nowadays rankles at that. What I did like, another thing I did like, though, was the guy, though, that played the dating game show host. So
he's brilliant.
Was Gary in Veep. And I've recently just watched Veep from beginning to end. Bad time to watch Veep, by the way. I don't know what I was thinking, but anyway. And it's the first time I've actually seen that guy. No, tell a lie, because he was in that bloody awful thing on Netflix, the Decameron or whatever it was. That kind of thing that's set during the Black fucking shit, don't. It's one of the few things I've watched, like the first 3 episodes and go, I'm not finishing this. Anyway. But he was good in it, and it reminded me a bit of Late Night with the Devil. You know, the talk show, it has a bit of that kind of thing in it. So that was really good as well.
There's a bit where
some of the kill scenes I thought were pretty good. You know, when he goes in to help the girl in her house, and then you kind of see her being attacked from above.
Really well done.
Yes. Yeah, that was excellent.
You don't physically see him kill anyone.
Like in it. No,
you don't, and I kind of like that, because actually, the more you know about Rodney Alcala, the more you're like that. You couldn't really film it. It's fucking he's just an evil prick. I was trying to explain to the weird thing was, I was trying to explain to my wife during the watching of it. I was like, that he never confessed to anything. That's one of the big things. He went to basically his death, not confessing to any crime.
Yeah, that rings a bell now that you mention it, actually.
Didn't do it. So the deaths that you see on screen, where there's someone that did, like that woman from that shot above, there's no way to know that actually happened that way.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of that, and once you kind of put yourself in that mindset, you just kind of have to roll with the movie, and that's just.
It's not a film for the true crime purists among us.
It's not, but it is entertaining in a way which kind of. It was one of those things that cross over. Like, I'm obsessed with true crime. My wife will tolerate true crime, but she's not huge into it. And it's one of those things where we find centre ground, where we can both be like, we can both watch this, and that's fine. We're a normal couple. No one will judge us. Let me hit you with one that I didn't like. This is up there. This is up there with Night Swim for me is one of the worst things I've seen this year, released on a major outlet. It was my Halloween movie this year. That was my 31st of October. It's been released by Netflix. We're doing it. I'm going to sit down and watch TIMECODE. Which I can see from your face, you have no fucking clue what. TIMECODE.
No, I've never even heard. I thought you said Time Cop for a minute, and I was like,
TIMECODE was
really,
Jean-Claude
you're really
Van Damme.
shoehorning that into 31 days.
The same thing can't occupy the same space and time, Baz. Otherwise, it melts. Right, TIMECODE. Let's do a spinning back kick just for Jean-Claude Van Damme. No, TIMECODE is the new horror movie, which I believe was shot a couple of years ago. How to describe this? Remember Happy Death Day to You? Remember it?
The second one.
Oh, let's do both.
I loved Happy Death Day. Yeah.
Did you not like Happy Death Day to You?
I didn't like it as much.
You're the reason I'm not getting a third movie, Baz. Thank you. Go and give it 5 stars.
I thought the first one was brilliant.
Aye, right. Imagine that, but shit, right? And if you can,
oh, you've got me now.
If you can do that, you're in for a hoot. TIMECODE follows a girl in modern times whose sister was killed by a serial killer a while ago, and she stumbles across a time machine that transports her back a couple of days before the killing, and she meets her sister. Can she change time? If she changes time, will she even exist? Watch the movie and find out. It is shite, right?
That sounds very, very bad.
It is poorly acted. It is poorly directed. It has some of the worst dialogue I've seen in a horror movie this year. And fundamentally, as time travel, quantum physics exists, this movie makes no fucking sense from the moment it starts to the moment it ends. And the ending itself will make you want to fucking claw at your eyes and throw it at the screen for being so dumb. It's one of those movies that I got to the end and I was like that. At some point, someone somewhere must have been like that. That isn't very good. Like, does anyone think what we're doing is actually okay? And like, apparently, no one raised their hand. It is bad. It's terrible. It's just. And the thing about it, I was thinking, I was like maybe my fucking eldest will watch this because kind of once again a Gen Z sort of kind of horror sort of movie, and she loves Winter loves 1 Happy Death Day and 2 Freaky, the Vince Vaughn. She's obsessed with those movies. Like, maybe she'll like this.
Oh, yeah. Aye. So I'm thinking
that?
of Freaky Friday, but Freaky's the one with Vince Vaughn is the serial killer.
The serial killer,
It's changed with the girl. Yeah.
That's right. I was like, she's obsessed with those movies. She like hardcore in with those movies. I'm like, maybe she'll like this because it's all that. And we watched the trailer together, and when the trailer finished, she looked at me and she was like that. Well, it's pretty shit. But like, not minus the shit word. She was like, I don't want to watch that, Dad. And I was like, I can read between the lines, Winner. You think this is shit. And I was like, well, it's on Netflix. I asked her, I've been away for a few days with work. I asked her, had she watched it? And she was like that. No. Like, she's like, I has zero interest in it from watching the trailer, which to me, that's the audience they're going for. Like, there's an age range. I'm out with that age range. So, Old Man Yells at Cloud is me on this one. Yeah. This movie's not aimed at me, which is why I don't like it. But she is in that bracket of that, and she thought the trailer looked mint. So, I don't know. I'd heard there's a bit of a story behind how it ended up on Netflix in the release. But this feels like one of these kind of, we have to release it to try and recoup something. It's not good. So TIMECODE is the name of the movie. It appeared on Netflix on the 30th, I think it was, the 30th of October. It is shit. Don't watch it.
I'm not going to.
That's my bad. Yeah, you've got better things to do, Baz. Do you have something equally bad or maybe marginally better that you want to discuss?
I think this was maybe about the fourth film I watched. This is the one out of all of them that I genuinely hated. And,
oh, give me it.
You know,
lay it down,
Daddy, like candy corn and that were just badly made and all that. But so this one had Jeffrey Dean Morgan in it. You know, big Negan.
Yeah.
A film called The Unholy.
Have I seen this? Well, you keep talking and I'm
trying to think now. I can't even remember if it was one of my recordings off the telly or if it was on Netflix. I can't remember. Anyway, he's basically a disgraced reporter.
I have not seen this movie.
Stories,
fucking not seen it.
So he goes to this town. There's been a kind of Jesus miracle in the town. It flip-flops so many. Do you know, it's so bad, I can't even remember what it was that I hated about it, but by the end of it, I was like, fuck that. Just absolutely fuck that movie. What's he doing in it? Because I like him. I mean, he can always play the same kind of guy, do you know what I mean? But he's, you know, he's good at doing it. And he plays that kind of, he's got that
cool
morally ambiguous thing going on. Yeah. You know what I mean? She's got the morally ambiguous thing in this movie. But just... Yeah, and then... Fuck, I'm going to spoil this one rotten. Basically, so there's a young girl who's like a ward of the church or something, and then they start to think that she might actually be the Virgin Mary, or the new Virgin Mary. Virgin Stephanie, or whatever her fucking name was. But then it's no... And then it turns out a witch was killed on this spot. And the witch has come back. Because basically, Jeffrey Dean Morgan goes there to report on, it's like, there's been a cow mutilation. And it's like, the farmers obviously just get like a penknife and stabbed his cow in the arse. Do you know what I mean? There we go. Oh, it's Satanists! There's Satanists fucking stabbing my cows. No, this, you know. So Jeffrey Dean Morgan's raking about, finds this little, like, it wasn't a corn doll, because I think it was made of clay, but this little artifact lying next to this kind of big stone. And of course, he just smashes it and all that. You know, I mean, that would never happen. And the soul of the witch was in the wee thing. You know.
Oh, of course it was.
It's utterly honking. Utterly honking, this film. And then it tried to do this. Is she the Virgin Mary, though? Oh, no, there's a demon. She's bad. She might be the Virgin Mary, though. No, she's bad. I don't care anymore. I just want them all to die. Quickly.
I just want credits. Give me the credits, please.
Awful film. Really, really bad. You know, and it obviously had a budget. I mean, you don't get Jeffrey Dean Morgan in your movie for free.
No, not now. Not now.
And you know, it's well shot and all that. There's effects in it. There's, you know, the casting's decent in it. You know, it's a well put together film. It's just shit. So yeah, don't watch that. The Unholy. Avoid that.
I will 100% not do that. I'm gonna give you like 3 back-to-back are good, because I kind of feel like we even when we're like saying good things, we're kind of also damning with faint praise. So the first one I'm going to mention is Strange Darling. It is getting a ton of traction this year. I really like this one. I kind of feel like it has a kind of almost a kind of Pulp Fiction Tarantino style layup, and that it is set in 6 chapters, but the 6 chapters are out of order. So you are introduced to a story, but then you start flip-flopping about that story, which changes your perspective and the characters in there. It's really good. It's kind of set up as like you think there's a serial killer that's kidnapped someone. As the movie progresses, it kind of flips on your perception of who is actually the stalker and who is actually the prey. It's really well put together. I kind of love the way it's set out. I kind of love the ending, and it has an indie aesthetic about it. All in all, I think it is like one of those movies that will probably end up quite high on my end of year list. But because it did things that I kind of wanted it to do in a way that I wanted it to do it. The next one I'm going to mention is a movie called Humane. This is directed by Kathleen Cronenberg. What? Ooh. That's right, daughter of David Cronenberg. David Cronenberg is making movies right now as we speak. And underneath him, the next generation, Brandon and Kathleen, are making movies. Brandon Cronenberg already has, what was it?
Possessor.
He had a movie before that, which I think might have been Virus or Antiviral. And then he had Possessor, and he did Infinity Pool, which I loved. All three of those movies I think are great. And this is Kathleen Cronenberg's debut movie. This is a more indie, less money, but fucking huge concept idea. The premise of the movie is the world is now grossly overpopulated, and in America what they've decided to do is institute, and I'm sure this will never happen because we've just had an election and the right people have been put in power. The Americans have decided that what they need to do is cull the population. So families are being asked to volunteer to be euthanized. So the government will pay a substantial amount of money to the family of the person that is being euthanized to reduce the population and thus the strain. And you are basically set with an affluent family with a lot of power and a lot of presence. And the patriarch and matriarch of the family have decided to do the noble thing, which is sign off on the euthanization of themselves for the benefit of their kids. However, it's now the whole process has been outsourced to a private company. I can't imagine this is satire or actually something that would happen. To a private company, and the matriarch of the family has run away because she's changed her mind. And guess what? The private company came to collect 2 bodies, and they ain't leaving unless they collect 2 bodies. I found it funny, I found it witty, pretty nasty, and a kind of Cronenbergian-esque kind of satire about it that made me really like. As a debut film goes, she has her father's wit, but a different spin on it. Like, Cronenberg isn't great with comedy. Like, David Cronenberg is one of these very cold, analytical guys. That's kind of why I love his movies. Kathleen Cronenberg has a bit of humour about her that I kind of got behind. It's not brilliant. It's not like high tier
What's it called?
Horror. It's called Humane.
Oh, Humane.
And if you're interested, I will source you a copy of this movie. I think you'll have a ball with this one. It's like an hour and a half, and it kind of jumps back and forth, and you're constantly going through it, going that. I don't live in America, but I imagine that if I did, this would be so close to the bone it would hurt. So yeah, Humane is one that I would highly recommend. The last one I'm going to put on here as a kind of one that I liked, that I think it's worth talking about, is Blink Twice. Blink Twice is available on Amazon Prime just now. It stars fucking like the gorgeous, sexy Channing Tatum. I'm going to be honest. I like, he's so dreamy. If you asked me to marry him, I would say I do. It's a kind of. So this one's directed by Zoe Kravitz, daughter of Lenny Kravitz.
Yeah.
Right. So And it kind of has a kind of
Lisa Bonet. Wasn't it? Her mum's Lisa Bonet?
That's right. Well, yeah. So it kind of has a kind of post-Me Too sort of thing about it. It's about a very wealthy entrepreneur sort of tech guy, played by our good buddy Channing Tatum, and he has fallen out of favour with the media because he's done a misstep that got him quote unquote cancelled. And we have our main person who's a kind of arty sort of try to find money, moonlights as a fucking catering assistant, shows up at an event that he's at, and she is infatuated with him, and he kind of has this kind of connection with her and invites her to go to his private island. I wonder what that could be like. I wonder if is there anyone that has a private island that's been in the news? I don't know. Private island with all his affluent friends for a retreat of booze, drugs, good food, and great times. And the longer she's there, the more strange things seems to be happening to the women on the island, specifically to do with their memory and like bruises that seem to appear on their body. And the story carries on. I thought this was fucking brilliant, right? I thought it gave me at least one or two reveals that made me think, oh, I think I know where the movie's going. Oh fuck, I don't know where the movie's going. Like, right to the very end, it's really well acted. It's kind of nasty, but the kind of revenge resolution part of the movie is really satisfying. And that kind of post-Me Too sort of thing. Yeah, it's not a long movie. It's fucking great. Like, this is Zoe Kravitz making her switch to making movies. She is a great director. The cinematography, the eye, and the storytelling is really tight. This is a sort of movie that doesn't have a huge amount of. There isn't a lot of fat to cut off here, and it also stars like people that you'd be like, it's like a murderer's row of fucking actors and actresses. It stars Haley Joel Osment from The Sixth Sense, the wee kid. Also
and
has.
Tusk.
And Tusk will appear later on in my commentary here in a way which makes me so fucking furious I want to kill everyone. Also stars Kyle MacLachlan from fucking Twin Peaks and God knows how many other things. And his small cameo in a way where I was just like that from the moment I walked in, I was like, you're a fucking sleazeball. Has Christian Slater. It's got a great cast, man. Oh, Christian Slater is fucking brilliant in this. As a great cast.
Christian Slater's brilliant in everything.
He's one of those actors that, like, I remember growing up with Christian Slater and just being like that. This guy is going to be amazing. And then there was that period where nothing happened. I'm assuming drugs happened. And like later day Christian Slater is brilliant because everything he's in him. He did that Mr. Robot. And he was fucking amazing in that. And I was like, he just needs to be in everything. And he's in this and he's great in this. So I highly recommend to anyone that hasn't seen it. It is on Amazon Prime for those with Amazon Prime. Blink twice. It is a succinct, great, really entertaining, kind of thriller, quasi-horror watch. And it is not over an hour and 40 and it is worth your time. So that is my collection of 3 great things. Baz, do you have something else positive that you want to counteract my positive?
No, I wouldn't go as far as saying positive, kind of mediocre. It's 2 that I'm going to lump together because I don't know, I had similar kind of vibes off them, even though not necessarily they're similar films. And it's 2 that I had heard of over the course of the last year. Okay. I think we might have seen a trailer for one of them or something. Anyway, the first one was Baghead.
Yeah.
So, watch that. The other one, and I'm just going to talk about the 2 of them together. The other one was Cobweb.
Yes, so I've reviewed both these.
Yeah, they're both on the streaming sites. I just thought they're just kind of that archetypal Blumhouse type modern horror film kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? There was some kind of decent bits to both of them. Visually, they were very good. Just not a vast amount of substance behind it all. Cobweb in particular was wildly predictable. Do you know what I mean? It's not hard to figure out roughly what's going on in that movie.
Also, like a strange, it's got strange casting in it because fucking Homelander's in it, and you're watching all that. You're Homelander. Why are you in this movie?
Yeah.
You know what I mean, all the way through it, I'm like, from the moment it starts, I'm like, am I supposed to like this guy because he plays arguably one of the greatest villains in TV history? So.
Yeah. And Baghead.
Baghead is
I like the visuals in Baghead.
Yeah.
I quite liked it. Peter Mullen's in it, which is good.
So I interviewed the director for Baghead. So yeah, so I did a review this a while ago, and I got a chance to interview the director for Baghead, and most of my questions, being a patriotic Scotsman, was like, what is it like working with Peter Mullen? And what I didn't realise was Peter Mullen was on set for like a day. It's like, get the shot. Peter Mullen is gone. Because I like yourself, I fucking adore Peter Mullen, and Peter Mullen very rarely wades into horror territory. Session 9 being a great example of that. Oh, he's so good in Session 9. He's fine in this. He's not really in it all that long. It's also a frustrating watch in that I kind of like the concept, but I also, similar to what you mentioned earlier on with the Elevator Game, I kind of feel like it's like a 20-minute movie that's been stretched right out over the full hour and a half runtime, and I kind of lost interest.
Yeah. I think they're both of these are films that would work at your kind of modern cinema horror fan.
100%.
Do you know what I mean? Whereas you get dorks like you and I that want to delve into it and expect stuff from horror films and you don't get that. No. But that kind of popcorn horror-y type fan is probably going to get quite a kick out of both of these films. Do you know what I mean? But then
it's going to end up on Lad Bible. Lad Bible's going to make a post for all of that. People are so shocked by this movie.
Yeah, totally. Cobweb, because Cobweb, all I kept thinking about was the people under the stairs.
Yeah, oh yes.
You know what I mean?
People under the stairs, so good.
So yeah, they're both just very meh. Do you know what I mean? I'm kind of glad I watched them. They've kind of ticked them off. I doubt very much I'm ever going to watch them again. Do you know what I mean? And I don't know why. I seem to lump them together in my head, and I also think I watched them kind of one after the other. So yeah, that was Baghead and Cobweb.
But well, let me, Baz, then hit you with a couple of things I'm going to lump together in the bad category. And I'm going to lump these two in the we exist only because the original movies exist. So the first one is the remake of Salem's Lot. So this is the third iteration of Salem's Lot.
I was going to watch this until I saw you ranting about it.
Oh, dude. What is the fucking point? Like, that is literally how I felt watching it. What is the actual point? So this was shot fucking about 3 or 4 years ago. And it's literally sat on the shelf of some fucking studio for a while. And has finally been pushed out directly onto Max, which used to be HBO. As it's not going to make its way to cinema now, so just go and watch it on our streaming service. We famously did a Bazaween episode where you watched Salem's Lot, and I mentioned it. I go back to it every Halloween, like every October. I will listen to that episode at least once. And the reason I go back, it is probably the most I've ever fucking laughed at anything we've done a lot of shit that's made me laugh, but it's probably the episode, your review of that is the most I've ever laughed during the recording, during the editing, and every year since when I listen back to it, where I hear
It's
you
my,
just
it's
fucking...
my favourite as well.
It's just one of those ones where you just built like a whole mythos behind like an innocent 5-second shot of cinema time where you built this whole thing behind it. And we get listeners, we still get listeners to this day who will like drop comments about that review. So I was going into this one kind of, I know the story. I've also done the audiobook of Salem's Lot, so I know it quite well inside out. So if you're gonna do it in 2024, I'm kind of curious to what you're gonna do. I also live in a world where Midnight Mass exists, and it is maybe the best. I'll put this on record. It's maybe one of the best things I've ever seen from the horror genre, which involves a vampire. I think it is fucking incredible, and because that exists, it's so fucking good. It's so good.
Yeah, I was blown away by it.
This is like the palest pale vampire pale facsimile of the idea of something like Midnight Mass. It lacks everything. It lacks everything that, like, the original Salem's Lot is what? It's fucking, that was 1979. And this is it doesn't even touch that. I'm not, like, showing the nostalgia glasses on. It just has no impact. The characters have no depth. The scenes with the vampire have no bite, pun intended. And it just goes on for about 2 hours. And I just felt the will to live leave my body every minute this was on. There's a reason it's ended up where it is, and it's not because of quote-unquote COVID. It's because it's quote-unquote shite. So yeah, it's not good. Don't fucking watch it. Up there with things that shouldn't be touched in the realms of what is a classic and why are you doing this to me is Apartment 7A. Baz, do you know Apartment 7A?
No, that doesn't mean anything at all.
Baz. Apartment 7A is the prequel to Rosemary's Baby. Now you're laughing because you've also watched Rosemary's Baby and you're thinking to yourself, why would someone make a prequel?
Yeah.
Yeah, like, imagine... So the story of this one is like, when you watch Rosemary's Baby, they talk about someone that lived in the apartment before the character in Rosemary's Baby.
Yes.
This is the story of the person that lived in the apartment before Rosemary's Baby. But it's obviously shot, 60 years from the original making of the movie, so we're having to recast everyone, which doesn't make any sense. And I am conflicted, right? Because Julia Garner is the main actress. She is the chick from... She's the kind of hillbilly chick drug maker character from Ozark.
I've never watched Ozark.
Ah, fuck. Peter Mullen's in it. Watch it.
I know it's meant. I don't know why I've not watched it. I know it's meant to be very good. Big Dave,
absolutely incredible. You will fucking love it. But she came to fame through that TV show. She's done a lot since. She's an incredible actress, and this is the kind of precursor to Rosemary's Baby. So it's a lot of setup and a lot of what should happen but doesn't happen but will happen in the next movie, and very much like the first Omen movie that came out this year, which just made me hate fucking life because it's a movie where, and people are still raving it. Once again, I'm just going to shit on horror fans. Like, see when you're like that, the first Omen, what a great horror movie, it discredits the Omen because all it does is a prequel that basically uses everything from the Omen in the prequel, which thus if you're someone that has never seen The Omen, and that's the first movie that you've seen, when you get to The Omen, you will not appreciate how fucking groundbreaking that movie is because it just copies everything.
I see.
I hate that. I can't stress enough. If you're going to do a prequel to a movie, which I don't think you should do, don't do a prequel where you basically take, I did this for you, like fucking people hanging themselves and shit. Like you're just copying things from the movie that comes after, which was the original, and now in the chronology you're set now, you're fucking like ruining that. This kind of is the same. It's full of references which are done by, and Roman Polanski is a bad man, but Rosemary's Baby is a fucking impeccable. It's a perfect movie. It's a perfect horror movie. But you're like, in a lesser hand, you're trying to do things that will be done in the movie after, which was shot 50 years before this, 60 years before this. Right, Rosemary's Baby, I think, is like 60s, 1960s, late 60s.
Yeah, it's one of the oldest we ever did together.
Yeah, so it's the late 60s, and this movie exists fucking 60 years after this, and you're doing a prequel to it that is just cherry picking things out and putting in here. I got to the end of this one and I didn't hate it. It's well shot and it's well acted, but I do not understand its purpose because it is nowhere near as good as the original, and you shouldn't be even thinking about doing a prequel to a movie if you can't even think of doing things to make it tie into the original movie, which aren't direct rip-offs of the original movie. So I would say avoid Apartment 7A. It made me hate cinema for like almost 2 hours. Like I was just like, oh, I fucking hate everything that's happening right now, and it makes me so annoyed. The last thing I'm going to mention, as part of this group of things, is a sequel to a series. This is VHS Beyond. Now, you've seen at least one VHS movie, yeah?
Seen the original one.
So, Shudder acquired the rights 2 years ago. So this is the third movie released under Shudder as a direct sequel to VHS. The interesting thing about this one is the people behind it are actually at a higher level. I didn't hate this, but I hated elements of this. And this is going to tie into our quote-unquote joke about a certain little movie called Tusk earlier on. So the idea about VHS Beyond is the Lincoln story is a collection of tapes involving things to do with alien abduction, which I'm like, cool, right? If you're going that way, let's fucking go that way. And of the shorts in this movie, all of them are to do with alien abduction. A lot of them have the same fucking story, but it's fine. It's fine. Alien abduction horror movies, kind of the same thing over and over again, but it's variations of the theme. Except for one story. One story. In the middle, out of nowhere, a guy called Christian Long has directed a movie. And you're thinking to yourself, who's Christian Long? Aren't you thinking that?
The name rings a bell, though.
Well, the surname should ring a bell because he is, I'm assuming, the brother of Justin Long.
Justin Long, that's the thing, that who was the guy in
Justin
Tusk.
Long,
and then
who is in
Dodgeball.
Tusk, who co-produced his short, which is about a kidnapper / serial killer who kidnaps people and turns them into dogs. Like human dog hybrids by attaching dog parts to them. Now, this would seem like a unique concept if the actor Justin Long hadn't been in the movie Tusk. In which in that movie, the person that kidnaps him, who's there to do an interview, which by the way is the setup to the short in this one here, doesn't try to turn him into a Tusk by surgical implants. And if you thought Tusk was bad, and Tusk is bad,
I like Tusk.
Tusk is shit, right? Tusk
It's
is
not
a
as
fucking...
good.
It's an awful fucking movie with no merit at all. It's a movie that is just like overtly mean-spirited and also dumb as fuck. This short here is more mean-spirited and even fucking dumber. and it exists in the anthology, which is all about alien abductions, and this is the only one that isn't about alien abductions, and I don't know why it's in it. It pulls like VHS Beyond. Of the 5 shorts in it, 3 are really good. 1 is pretty bad, and the dog tusk is awful. And as a result, what could have been something that I would have been like, actually, VHS has still got some new spark about it, turned out to be I think that this series should go away now. Please make it go away. Make the bad man, i.e. Shudder, stop. So yeah, that's that. And I'm looking forward to, in the next segment, doing a collation, my final collation of things that I think you should actually check out. But before we do that, Baz, I promised it. I'm going to do it. You set me up. Terrifier 3.
Okay.
I gave it 3 stars out of 5.
Really?
Which means I liked it. But, right, let's get into the but. Right, the first Terrifier movie, utter shit. Right, just like wooden characters, put like, and people are like, oh, it's fucking great, it's fucking, let me fucking stroke my cock and fucking a woman being shredded and halfway out. Like, it's literally, it's arseholes. Like, I'm just gonna call people out. If you like the first Terrifier movie, you need to go and like sleep with a woman, right? You need to get laid or sleep with a man. You need someone else other than yourself touching your penis, right? Or vagina, right? You need someone else, like, you need someone else getting you off and not yourself, because it is a movie that has one good practical effect in it, right? One good practical effect. I say good, not amazing, because you can see right fucking through it. And the rest of that movie is poor acting, poor setup, elongated scenes of nonsense, and just shit, right? Terrifier 2 is a better made movie. It is also infinitely longer, and the first 45 minutes is a dream sequence in a movie that's 2.5 hours long, right? And people are like, but adds mythology. Doesn't add mythology, right? It doesn't add any mythology, because there's no story in the first movie. So like adds mythology. No. It baselines a story, right? And people are going to tell that Terrifier 3 continues to add to the mythos of the Art the Clown character. Which it does. But it's 2 hours long, and all that stuff doesn't happen until the last 20 minutes. So, fuck you for saying that it doesn't. It is an hour and 40 minutes of the same shit you've seen before, except we have budget now, so the practical effects and the kills are grander, maybe grosser, and the last 20 minutes of the movie are the stuff that is a continuation from the second movie. They've added a kind of fucking like a Bride of Chucky Jennifer Tilly character in the third part that could just not be in this movie and it would make me happy. Her existence is fucking poison to the series. But I think there's a lot of I think the kills are smarter in this one. I think they do go meaner. And you know me, I don't like mean kills for the sake of mean kills. I kind of like them to be, this guy's, the character is an absolute awful character. So the ends justify the means, right? So that's why he dies that way. This series doesn't really think that way at all. But we'll muddle through set piece. It does the Halloween part 5 thing where we're like, all of a sudden our characters wake up 5 years later and you're like, how, what? You're like, were you asleep for 5 years? It does that. Horror movies do that. The end of the movie is kind of good, and that's where it gets its 3 stars. So the stuff that links back to the stuff that we ended up with at the end of part 2 is kind of interesting, and I found the last 20 minutes really, really, really fun, and I kind of got behind it, and the mean-spirited nature actually worked. Characters behaved in a way which kind of made sense, and the quote-unquote mythology expanded out. I believe he's got a 4th movie and then he's done on this one, so he's going to finish on the 4th. We'll wait and see if that happens. He will never make it. He will never make another movie that is not a Terrifier movie. And if he does, no, it'd be like J.K. Rowling. No one will fucking check it out, right? Let's there's no Harry Potter. We'll check it out. I give it 3 out of 5. I'm going to say this for anyone that's like, oh, Duncan liked a Terrifier movie. We might be to part 7 before things start getting into a realm where I'm recommending this movie. I will say this about the series. Terrifier as a series is the greatest example of how to use social media smartly of any movie series I've ever seen. The marketing behind this one, not actually like trailers and posters and all the rest, the marketing behind the social media is fucking genius, because every post gets a huge amount of traction of people interested, repulsed, but they're all commenting and reacting. And that's what you... In 2024, reactions, whether positive or negative, are actually worth more than ticket sales, right? And Terrifier 3 is the premier example of this one. There is absolutely no way these movies should be over an hour and 20 minutes long. And that's the biggest issue I have with the newest movie is 2 hours long. And as Mark Kermode famously says, in 2 hours you can almost fully watch 2001: A Space Odyssey, which goes from the birth of like fucking the primates through to the evolution of man to the next level of consciousness in 2 hours. And in this movie you get chainsaws cutting through people. So what the fuck is up with that? So yeah, I wanted to put it out there because I read so many comments of people like, Duncan's gonna fucking hate this movie. And yeah, had it been Terrifier 2 or Terrifier 1, yes, I would have hated this movie. It's Terrifier 3. They've got a lot more money behind it. It is cleaned up. It is made a lot. I think they're saying it is per budget is per budget as a horror movie is the most successful horror movie this year in terms of money spent on it compared to money recouped. There's not a huge amount of money spent on it. So for that, I applaud it. But as a movie, this is the lowest common denominator. Like, this is the highlight reel of special effects with no story in between. And those that claim there's a story in between, there isn't actually a story in between. It is Art the Clown walks into a bar. Oh, look at him kill these people. Art the Clown walks into a shop. Oh, look at him. That's not a story. And the story that you claim is the mythology behind it only happens in the last 20 minutes of the movie. You have to suffer through an hour and 40 minutes to get there. 3 stars out of 5. We'll wait and see what happens with Terrifier 4. Baz, please tell me anything, positive or negative. Give us your final segment of movies. I will bring it in after that. Floor is yours.
So, first up is a sequel. Beetlejuice.
I've seen this movie, so we can both comment on this.
Yep, so I didn't manage to catch it at the cinema. I managed to find it somewhere else.
I wasn't involved with this, so how did you find
it? On my Fire Stick. And I actually
watched
this
comment, Duncan. Someone gave it to me.
I watched this when I was on holiday down at Centre Parks. I took a funny kind of, I don't know what it was. I think it was like a chest infection or something like that during when I was away. So one of the days, my wife just took the kids away with Shed Stew and his wife and their kids, and I just stayed in all day and I watched this in the afternoon. What's the point in that film? I had a month or two ago, I rewatched Beetlejuice. Beetlejuice is a film I had seen years ago. It wasn't a film that I watched over and over again. So I watched it again myself, just to kind of remind me of the kind of mythos of it all. Watched this, and I want to say I don't know why they made it, but I do know why they made it. They made it off the back of Wednesday and fucking Jenna Ortega. This was just another excuse to have Jenna Ortega do her wee hot goth girl type thing.
She has found a market that's really interesting because obviously in doing Wednesday...
horny wee goth kids.
Well, she's in doing Wednesday, she has basically become the younger version of Christina Ricci, and in doing Beetlejuice, she's become the younger version of Winona Ryder. And in both circumstances, I could believe that she is the daughter of either character. So
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've not seen Wednesday, but I've seen enough of the memes and the fucking TikTok dances and all that.
I used to own like a couple of spoken word tours from Kevin Smith, the guy behind fucking Clerks and Jane Silent Bob and all the rest. And
Tusk.
And Tusk, which I fucking hate. Which once again underlines the fact that the guy doesn't understand horror movies, because if you watch Red State is like Red State is 1/3 of a really cool concept and 2/3 of a shit fucking movie, right? Like, I really like the stuff that works in that movie is fucking gold. The stuff that doesn't work in that movie is about 2/3 of everything that surrounds it. But like he does a talk about it's one of his spoken words from like about 15 years ago, and he talks about the pitch for, and this had been like a pitch that had been going on for a decade at then. So basically, all the way through the late 90s, early 2000s, there was a pitch for Beetlejuice 2, which was Beetlejuice in Hawaii. Essentially, Beetlejuice goes tropical.
Right.
And like, so it's been like, there's been talk of Beetlejuice as a sequel for like about 20 years of my life. And I have constantly said, will never happen. Will never happen. And like you said, Wednesday became incredibly popular, and then all of a sudden Beetlejuice got greenlit. I've seen a lot of the negative comments on this one, and I agree with some of the ways to fix this. This kind of feels like a ton of ideas flung into a movie. You know what I mean? It kind of almost feels like this would be better as a 6-episode miniseries where we could follow different aspects and do different things, as opposed to cramming them all into one story. Because when you cram them all into one story, I'm like, oh, Catherine O'Hara's character's there. I kind of fucking love her, but there's something going on with that, but it kind of feels hollow. Oh, like Jenna Ortega's character's there, and she's doing some stuff, and there's something to do with her dad, but it kind of feels like we scraped the surface. Beetlejuice is doing something, that's kind of cool, but we never really go in depth on it, so we're scraping the surface. And then all the kind of Bob and the fucking, what's her face, the hot
the
chick,
wife,
Monica Bellucci, with the fucking staples and it. Well, that kind of feels, everything felt rushed. Like, all the way through the movie, I was like, oh, right, the movie's, oh, it's not about that, it's about this. No, it's not about that. It's about this cat. Oh, it's not about that. And I just struggled to get through it because nothing felt cohesive. It just felt like a ton of ideas flung on the wall to see what.
Yeah, I just didn't see the point in the movie at all.
Mm-mm.
But there was a couple of things that annoyed me in it. So obviously there was the Alec Baldwin, Gina Davis characters are not in the film. Spoiler alert.
Alec Baldwin is on trial for shooting someone right now, Baz, and Gina Davis is on a ton of plastic surgery. So,
and I get all that, right, and that's all fair enough.
Mm-hmm.
But for some reason they put in that random throwaway line. Oh yeah, we found a loophole for them. That's why they're not here.
Were you upset that
for some?
I was going to say,
for some reason,
Jeffrey.
then. Aye, him, right, that character, right, now he's been up to the old noncery in his private life, right?
Like Jeffrey Jones gets eaten by a shark and we do not see him on screen because he was like,
yeah, but this is what I'm talking about.
Porn on his computer.
The levels that they went to shoehorn that character into the film was unbelievable, but arguably the two main characters out with Beetlejuice, who, interestingly, on watching that original film again after many years, it's surprising how little he's actually in that film. But anyway.
Who, Beetlejuice?
Aye.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, like
I had never noticed that until I watched it again.
Dude, like, that's the 80s. Like, how many times is Jason Voorhees in a Friday the 13th movie? Very fucking little. How many times, like, how many minutes is Pinhead in Hellraiser? Very fucking little. Like, 80s movies are about the characters. They're not about the villain, right? And as a result, Beetlejuice is in it very little because that's what, like, there's a reason you remember almost every line from Beetlejuice, the character from the movie Beetlejuice, right? It's because there's collectively about 10 minutes of him on screen. So all those things are stuck in your brain. Like, see when he's in it all the way through it, that character is no longer special because he's all the way through the fucking movie.
Yeah. So, yeah, and the thing with the Jeffrey guy, that annoyed me. And that compounded my annoyance about the handling of the Gina Davis Alec Baldwin thing. Right. And the rest of it, just fucking. I just thought this is just a vehicle for Jenna Ortega, to be quite truthful.
Yeah. And I like Jenna Ortega, so if this is a vehicle for her.
So I don't have anything against the girl, but I just felt they kind of took what for some people is a very revered childhood movie.
I've watched Beetlejuice arguably more times than I've watched some of my favourite movies ever made. I love Beetlejuice. Beetlejuice was the movie that I saw when I was fucking 10. That was like that. Like, I didn't even know what the word goth meant, but I was like that. I could be goth. I could be sitting there writing my suicide note going that I am utterly alone. No, I mean totally, utterly alone. Rip it and throw it in the bin. I love Beetlejuice. The new movie did nothing for me except make me think like Beetlejuice is one of those remarkable movies that probably shouldn't be as popular as it was, but was hugely popular only because Tim Burton existed in a weird bubble where there was no other filmmakers that did kind of what he did. And now
I'm not a big Tim Burton fan either, which doesn't help matters.
We are so far on from it now where I'm like looking at it going like that. There's so many filmmakers that have co-opted that style now that it doesn't feel different. It just kind of feels like... So to me, the sequel was the absolute epitome of a 2.5. It's just an absolute middle of the road. Didn't dislike it. What else do you have? Do you have anything else on the list?
On my list? Yep. I'm going to rattle through these relatively quickly.
Go for it.
Don't Move on Netflix. The girl from Yellowstone. It's actually all right. It's surprising that they managed to, for a film where basically she can't move for most of it. They actually managed to stretch that out quite well.
I liked it. I
thought it was fun to watch.
Yeah, I hated the ending. I thought the ending was a bit too neat. But I thought as performances, because got the guy from, I know him from American Horror Story. I know he's done loads of other things. But I thought as a serial killer, he's fucking great in the movie. And I thought it was a fun concept. Like one of those quirky ones. It's an interesting spin. And like when you watch Hush, and you're like, this is an interesting spin on a slasher movie. I kind of felt the same way. And it entertained me for the, once again, less than an hour and a half runtime, which is fucking glorious in this day and age. It was alright. Past the time.
So I'd feel very much the same about that. Second last one, In a Violent Nature.
Did you finally watch
it wasn't what I was expecting at all.
You missed this. So me and Dave, I'd seen it. Yeah. Me and Dave went to see it in the cinema, and I think
I was on holiday.
I think people think I'm joking about this when I say this was one of these silent screaming. It was the first silent screaming that Cineworld did, and more than 20 people walked out in the first hour and a bit of this movie. Like, actively walked out of this movie. So, me and Dave sat
I can understand why, kind of thing. I mean, I watched it. I didn't completely hate it, but I mean, I wouldn't watch it again. I liked the image, the hood thing that they used on the guy. But again, it's just another fine example of that. You've got to come up with something to back it up, and they didn't really. And that's all I'm going to say about that. And the very last one is the one that I think you're waiting on, Duncan. I watched Bubba Ho-Tep.
Oh, but like nothing will make me happier
Grotesquerie
on this
movie.
planet than the fact that you finally got around to Bubba Ho-Tep, which is a movie that, had we still been doing like the proper Duncan introduces Baztan movie, Bubba Ho-Tep was on my list, because I knew before you even say anything, and I know what your outcome on this because we briefly spoke about it, but before you even watched it, I had it in my head, Baz are gonna fucking love this, because it's just like, to me it's so much fun, but the historical element makes it, like the absurdity of the historical element makes it even more fun. So let the listeners out there know what you made of finally sitting down to watch Bubba Ho-Tep, Hail to the King, baby.
Yeah, it was again it wasn't really the film I thought it was going to be. I didn't particularly love the premise of it all, but I thought Bruce Campbell was brilliant in it, and I really loved the wee black guy that thought he was
Ozzy Jones is fucking amazing in the movie.
Yeah, just the characters in it are so bonkers. It's just brilliant. The film itself, I can take or leave, but I would watch it for those characters. Like if they brought out a second one where they go to Vegas or something,
it has
like that,
been rumoured for years about a Bubba Ho-Tep sequel. Yeah, it'll never happen, but Coscarelli was attached for the longest time for the sequel, which was, in fact, while I'll just do it right now, because the title for it was, you've no idea, a Ho-Tep sequel. The title is called, is that the sequel's name? I thought it was. That's not what I thought. It's got here Bubba Ho-Tep and the Curse of the She-Vampires, which may be the name of the sequel. I thought was more crazier than that, but there was talk for the longest time of trying to do a sequel, but I think we're so far out from it now that it's unlikely to ever happen, because he ain't Tim Burton and it ain't Beetlejuice, so we ain't gonna get that 20 years after the original. But I'm glad you loved it. I love Bruce Campbell. I would never have thought Bruce Campbell Elvis. See if he decided to do like an Elvis biopic, I would fucking watch the shit out of that. He's so good. So good. Also, like, it did make me slightly think, if I end up in a care home, they clean your penis, Baz, by hand. By hand. Give me it. Right, I'm going to swing in with some of the highlights for me overall on this one. So to me, I've seen a few movies that I think are like really worthy of your time if you're out there in viewing land. One of them is Oddity. It's getting so much traction as one of the movies to see this year. I think it's fine. I think it's really good. I don't think it's one of the best horror movies this year. It's directed by Damien McCarthy. It is an Irish horror movie. I think it's on Shudder, so you might be able to check this one out, Baz.
It's on something, because I've seen it pop up on my TV, so yeah.
There's a kind of folklorish element about this kind of. So what happens is we have the setup to a murder at the start of this woman, wife, fiance sort of person, and then we jump into the future, and her blind twin sister, who is a medium, comes across some evidence that makes her interested back in the case, where she returns to the original family home, and then things start to unfold from there. But it involves essentially like a Gollum-esque sort of entity, as kind of thing that comes to life. I thought it was interesting. I thought the acting was really good. I don't think it's as remarkable as people are literally shooting their load about this one. But I can think of other movies where like in the last like 5 years that do something similar, and to me do it better. But I think it's definitely one of the highlights of this year and something that you should definitely check out. Exhuma is the next one I'm going to mention. Exhuma is a South Korean horror movie directed by Jang Ji-hyun. I think this one is fucking great. It follows a guy who is a geo-exorcist, I think is what it's classed as. And basically what he does is, like, stop fucking laughing. The fact that Geo is in the name and that might be something to do with my career. Like, you know what? I'm just going to say, you know what, Baz? Right now.
Oh!
There you go.
Fuck it.
Oh, fuck it, Baz. Right. There's a grandson who is trying to find the location of his grandfather who has been buried somewhere in South Korea, and he hires the services of a couple of mediums and this geo-exorcist to dig him up. It might be, and this is how I hook you in, Baz, it might be that the grandfather has been buried in a desecrated site, desecrated by the Japanese during the invasion of the island. See how I did that? I just like hooked him in as if this was fucking nothing. Acting's great, story's brilliant, the visuals are awesome, and it's South Korean. South Korean horror movies are just a fucking different level. They managed to cram in drama, comedy, horror, like just like really like lots of different things into the storytelling. And it's one of these ones where you get to a certain point, you're like, oh, that was a really great conclusion to the story, and then you're like, oh, that's only the first half. Like it builds it, like it is really, really, really fucking good. Like one of those ones where it's just effortlessly made, and there's just a high quality mark. It kind of reminded me a lot of times of The Wailing. Like when I was watching it, I was just like, it just feels like an effortlessly well-made horror movie. Just like the characters, everything, just brilliant. So Exhuma, it's going to be in my top 10 this year. I fucking loved it. I thought it was great. So please go and check it out. I'm going to mention this one in the good and the bad. I checked out Speak No Evil. So this is the Blumhouse remake of Speak No Evil, the Danish/Swedish movie, which is 3 years old. So let's remake it in English. This one stars fellow Scotsman James McAvoy in the antagonist role. He is brilliant in this movie. I dislike this movie.
No.
I dislike it because they changed the ending. They give it the Hollywood ending, which is still mean, but it's nowhere. It's like when you watch the original The Vanishing and then you watch the remake of The Vanishing. Or you watch The Descent in the UK and then you watch The Descent in America, where characters survive that shouldn't survive and kind of things move on but probably shouldn't. I've seen some people say that they prefer the ending to this one. I think if you prefer the ending to this one, you kind of miss the point of the original. The original, like, it ends up in a very bad place because that's what happens when polite people do not react to things that merit reaction of, this isn't right. I know you're my host, but I don't think we should be doing this. Or you stand up to people doing things they shouldn't. In a world where the original doesn't exist, this probably would score higher, but in the world where the original exists, this one was a okay horror movie and kind of one of the better Blumhouse movies I've seen this year, but still not fucking great. Let me hit you with my 1-2 kapow punch of things that I think are really worth your time. The first one is A24, because why wouldn't it be A24? It's the movie The Front Room. It stars Brandy. You remember Brandy? She was in that girl group with Beyonce. Destiny's Child, remember? Question?
I do.
This is fucking great. Like, her and her white husband have a child, and they have to take in their her husband's invalid mother. I think it's mother, might be grandmother. Been a few weeks since I watched it. Into the house to look after her, and he's estranged from them. And we find out why he's estranged, because she is kind of going senile, and she needs like 2 walking sticks and all the rest. And maybe she has a bit of the South in her, where black people don't have the same rights. It's a horror black comedy, and it is absurd, and it's kind of fucking amazing because it has elements of there's a religious horror overtone that works really, really well. It's short. It's written by Max Eggers, and directed by Max Eggers and Sam Eggers, who I think might be related to Robert Eggers, the guy behind The Witch, I think, potentially. If they don't, that's an uncommon surname to have in there. But it's so much fun. It's so well done, and it's really short, sharp, and very much worth your time. However, all of them pale in comparison by what might be now my favourite horror movie of the year. You've heard people talk about it. If you went to the secret screening of this one, you probably saw it. Let me tell you a little story about a movie called The Substance. The Substance is fucking fire. This is my fucking jam. This is directed by Coralie Farget, who directed the movie Revenge from, 4 or 5 years ago? The kind of French, I think it was fully French production movie of a woman of the night who is brought out to a remote gun runner's fucking house in the middle of nowhere, and through an accident they think they kill her and dump her body out in the middle of nowhere, and turns out she's not dead, and she comes back and reaps unholy fucking bloody revenge, and it's beautifully shot and it's full of neon. This is her follow-up, and 2 movies in, she might be one of the most impressive filmmakers fucking walking the planet, pound for pound. It stars Demi Moore and Margaret Qualley and Dennis Quaid, and it is about an aging fitness like kind of icon on TV played by Demi Moore, who is close to being let go by TV exec Dennis Quaid because she's getting a bit old and maybe she's not as pretty as she was before for someone younger, and she stumbles across this advertisement for a thing called The Substance, and The Substance makes all these claims about making you younger, a better version of yourself, and she takes it, and this is like literally the first 10 minutes of the movie. She takes it, and what it basically does is creates a clone of her, and the clone of her is like the younger version of her, but it can only exist for 7 days before the mind of Demi Moore has to switch back. So you can live 7 days in the younger body before you have to transfer back 7 days into the older body. And as long as you do that, you're fine. But if you try and steal time in any way, it will have a fucking horrible effect on the other part. And that is all I'm going to say about it. In terms of the plot, it has fucking incredible social commentary. It has a dark hack. The last third of this movie is fucking bonkers. It is like, we saw Society. Remember when we went to that screening last year, we saw Society? That movie where people literally fucking morph into like a body orgy at the end.
I wasn't there.
Were you not there for that? You did. You went to see it at the fucking All Day Horror Madness. Remember All Day Horror Madness? You were there with us. Me, you, Scott and Liam sat in a cinema at the GFT and watched a bunch of old movies put on the screen just before Halloween. It's 5 movies, and one of them was Society, and Society was about this kid who... You were fucking there.
I wasn't there. I'm telling you.
Me, you, Scott and Liam were in the GFT and we watched 5 movies, one of which was Pieces. How do you not remember this? You were fucking in the cinema with us.
Telling you I wasn't.
Well, I have another friend called Baz who sat and watched movies with me. Me, you, Scott, and Liam.
No, I've been to Fright Fest with yous. I've never been to the All Day Horror Madness thing.
All Day Horror, you were there.
I wasn't. I've never seen Society.
You're a fucking liar. Anyway, right. Society ends up in this, like, body fucking morphing, like, body horror, like, everyone's assumed by each other, like, fucking grotesque bit of cinematography that you would only think would exist in the 80s until you watch The Substance, because the last fucking 25 minutes of this movie is fucking bonkers, and I'll tell you right now, I love this movie. I think this movie is... This is the exception to the rule when I was talking about, like, this year has been horribly disappointing. There's been about 4 movies this year that I think are genuinely amazing, and The Substance might end up as my number 1 of the year. I think it's absolutely fucking brilliant. Like, effortlessly good. Like, just across the board. And I love the fact that it's getting so much traction. It's on the streaming service Mubi at the moment, which I weirdly pay for, like, a lot of money. It's what I replaced Shudder with. Is Mubi, and I barely watch it, but The Substance has appeared on there, and they posted that it got launched. I think it got released yesterday on their platform, and it is now their biggest viewed, most watched title on their subscription service within 24 hours. Got it fucking great. This is how I will sell this to you, Baz. Demi Moore in the buff, like, full on. Like, if you want to see Demi Moore's titties, you will see them. If you want to see her unshaved muff, you will see that in this movie. Like, because she gets it out, and it is worth every fucking second.
What a time to be alive.
No wonder Bruce Willis lost his mind. You know, like, became all, like, weird and senile and Death's Door, because he was shagging that. He was tapping that. That's why that happens. Yeah, it's just fucking absolutely incredible, and I ain't telling people out there something they don't know. If you've not seen The Substance, check it out. It's fucking amazing. And she, like, that Coralie Fargate is... It's 2 movies in, like, the space of 6 years, and both, like, that first one was great. This one is exceptional. She's going to go on really, really far. And I remember, and I don't want to say I told everyone so, but I remember when I watched Revenge, I said, give her money, like, just give her money and scope to do whatever she wants. She'll be amazing. Turns out I was fucking right. Oh, so good. Right, as a wrap up on this one, the only thing I want to say is I have seen post this a horror movie released by A24. Everyone out there will know from the trailer. I wish I'd seen it with you, because me and you would have had a fucking ball with this one. It's still in the cinema, so if you want to go and see it, let's go and see it.
What's
It's
it called?
Heretic. Heretic. So it's the Hugh Grant horror movie.
The Hugh Grant one, yeah.
It's fucking amazing, right? It's absolutely amazing. So it's 2 Mormons show up to spread the good word of Mormonism on the doorstep of Hugh Grant, a very charming elder man who invites him in and wants to have a conversation about theology. But things might be more disturbing as they seem. I had never realised this before, but Hugh Grant's performance, Hugh Grant just as a character actor, taken out of that kind of Love Actually, fucking Notting Hill, fucking / Four Weddings, and if you put, like, dark lighting behind him and a little bit on ominous music, is absolutely fucking terrifying. He is phenomenal in this movie. He is absolutely amazing as himself, as playing Hugh Grant. It is tense as fuck all the way through, because you don't know what's going on, but it is like a full-on examination of the discussion of religion and it's
Right.
heavily dialogued. There's a lot of Hugh Grant, like espousing a ton of critique on the idea of what religion is and how it's been packaged and passed down from generation or tome by tome all the way down. It is chef's kiss good. Like it's A24 doing like, there's no fucking Art the Clown sawing a woman in half. That's right, there isn't. But guess what? There is in this one. Actors who can act. It is fucking awesome. I loved this movie. I loved this movie, and you will. I know for Dave loved this movie. Like this might be one of these ones where like we might have the holy trinity of all three of us being like that. This movie hits. Right. So if you fancy it, it's out in the cinema. I will go and watch it with you. You will. I genuinely know for a fact you'll enjoy it because the conversation about religion, specifically about Mormonism, because they go into the whole Joseph Smith stuff and all the background of it, is just it's fucking nice. So well done, man. So well done, and the performances across the board from not only Hugh Grant but the actresses in it is fucking incredible. So yes, it's the one that I would mention out with it. You mentioned you've been watching something as a comfort TV show, and as the last say, because I love giving you the last say on this, the floor is yours.
It wasn't as a comfort thing. It was I don't know if you've seen it. It's new, relatively new on Disney Plus. It's called Grotesquerie.
No, I've not seen this. No.
Yeah, it's fucking awful.
It's Ryan Murphy, isn't it?
It's Ryan Murphy. It's everything. You remember when we used to talk about American Horror Story? There was some seasons I really liked, but there was some that I didn't as well. Mm-hmm. And the ones that I didn't, they tended to have a good premise at the kickoff and then just lose their shit halfway through. Yeah. And this is just a whole season of that. It's the main character in it's played by, what was that TV show? Was it Final? Not Final Girls, because that was the movies. The one about
Scream Queens?
Yeah, Scream Queens.
Yeah. That's Ryan Murphy as well. So.
Right, and you know the black woman that played like the security officer at the college?
Oh, #Cahoots. She's fucking amazing. Yeah. She's mad like #Cahoots. Love her.
She's in it. It's hard to say without spoiling it. It's just a whole fucking Bobby Ewing in the shower in Dallas fucking dreamscape mess. It's absolutely
you're selling this to me hard right now.
Oh, I full on hated it, and the ending. I hated it all the way. Well, I didn't hate it all the way through. I really liked it at the start, and then it just derailed, and never got back on the rails. And then right at the very end, it just hoofed me right in the balls. Don't watch it. And annoyingly, I think you will probably quite like it because it's like they took a season of American Horror Story and melded it with Hannibal.
I thought the way you were talking, you were going to get like that at the end. Oh, I kind of fell off at the end and no, work it out. And you're like that, with me in the balls.
Nah, just spat in my face. I had to go and Google in case there was episodes that hadn't come out yet, or there was another season that was coming to. The last episode just ends like every other episode. Well, what happened there? I hate it. I hate it.
I'm going to check it out.
Watch it.
I will probably watch it because you've said enough keywords to make me want to watch it now, and I can't wait till the next time we record where I'm like that. You know what, Grotesque? Kind of loved it, and that's where our friendship will end. Ladies and gents, you've suffered through this, but you know what? It's been a while since we recorded, and you fucking earned it. I stand by my statements that I said earlier on. This year has been pretty awful for horror. I know you might think differently. I don't care. I kind of feel like I'm moving it. I do. I kind of feel like I'm moving into my mean phase now. Kind of feel like I've been too nice for too long, and it's time to like kind of unshackle the more kind of less cynical but just more honest Duncan.
Your villain era.
It might be. I might have to turn full #heal on this one, but I genuinely think this year has been pretty abysmal. And if you disagree with me, take the movies that you love this year and put them against, stack them against. I would say, you know what? Stack them against the last decade, year on year, and see where the movies you love right now actually place. Because I don't think they place kind of close to the stuff that you loved last year, the year before, and let's just keep going back from that. It's been a pretty abysmal year. I'm looking forward to doing my top 20 where I just say, this is on my top 20, probably shouldn't be. I'm looking forward to running through all those. And I'm looking forward to doing more podcasts. I'm looking forward to coming back and just like telling you, I don't really care. And I hope that you don't care too. And if you do care, I'm sorry that I upset you, because I don't care. Which is as I posted on Facebook earlier on, I said I'm kind of just feeling that the inner me is just feeling a little bit mean, and then I posted underneath it, if you think this comment is directed at you, probably is. I don't know what else to say. I just don't feel like we should be celebrating mediocrity, and apparently everyone is quite happy to do that at the moment, so let's just do that. Ladies and gents, I've been joined by the Baz. He is glorious. Look at him. Look at that
I
visage.
am almost asleep because it is 1 a.m, and I did not think it was
run
going to
so much later than the hour and a half I planned. So I'm going to bring it in right now. Baz, you are always effortlessly awesome, and the listeners love you, but they also want to hear you say goodbye to them, because it's the only way they can sleep safe in the world. So if you wouldn't mind, on this episode, could you say goodbye to the listeners, please?
I certainly will. I hope you've enjoyed that, folks. I know I've not been about much this year. I probably won't be about much next year either. There's a lot of stuff going on. And but I am still watching my horror movies, and occasionally we'll get drunk and we'll do a Jaws' shite. And until then, take care.
Yeah, you heard what Baz said. Baz said, fuck off. And I agree with that statement. Thank you very much for checking this episode. You know what? If you didn't check it out, or you checked out some of it, or you're only checking it at the end, that's okay as well. I don't care. It's still a subscription. It's still a view. It's still a download. Ladies, before I forget, Baz got me this for my birthday. It's a lot of little Lego characters who are all horror. And I don't want to tell my wife this, but it's better than anything she got me this year. I absolutely fucking love it. Absolutely love it. She didn't watch these, so we're fine. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been myself. This has been Baz for the podcast Under the Stairs, giving you a recap of our 31 or however many days of October until I speak to you, which actually won't be all that long because we have a few episodes before the end of the year. Please take care of yourselves out there. This is Duncan McLeish broadcasting live from Under the Stairs, and I am signing off.